That is entirely too bright. I'm like, God damn, that's bright as fuck. Woo. That was entirely too fucking bright. That was entirely on the way. Let's adjust these lights. As we type it in, as we coming in. Many are looking and they're wondering and they're like, oh my God, and all that other shit. Who is this motherfucker? As it's filling in, I'm gonna adjust this volume a bit. The way I'm hearing and the way y'all hearing is two different hearings. But I had a moment with myself today. I had a moment with myself today that led to what I was already going to discuss. But it actually led me further into the point of understanding what we're going to be discussing tonight. And that's understanding how to get onto this boat life, this yacht club aspect, this boat life. Get up here and cruise instead of you getting stuck in that, oh my God, but this and but that, but this and that and that. I could just say simply that everything's an expression and it's an expression and all of that shit, but there's layers to the level. I'm gonna start with the story of how I did with myself today. I woke up like I wake up mostly every day, but I noticed that things that I had to do, like the programming aspect of my day, and really accepting myself in that day, accepting myself inside of myself, bringing myself into this space without shame, doubt, insecurity, jealousy, ultimately dishonoring myself, ultimately dishonoring ourselves. It's all in the process of honoring our thoughts and how you honor your thought. Honoring our thoughts to the highest aspect of ourselves exposes self-sabotage. It exposes shame. It exposes guilt. It exposes these faculties based on that lower level expression. But in order to understand our shames and our guilts and why we see and why it keeps replaying is all based on that expression of yourself, understanding you, getting into that past life regression, understanding your past lives, the aptitudes of yourself, of your past life, what you did in your past lives doesn't matter. What you did in your past life doesn't matter, just like what you're doing in your current state doesn't matter. It's all a part of a framework that you have built in order to exist within that space. The key is we no longer want to exist because existing is in that survival aspect. That means I need to stay within something to say, okay, this is why I exist, i.e. that identity. So tonight we're going to be getting into those very deep identities. Last week, if you tuned in, if you didn't, it's still up. Child's Play, we got into those aspects of the hidden shadow. The week before that, we got into the dark night of the soul. We're getting deeper and deeper into these mentalities. And then that's what led me to the thought with just having that thought. In order for me to execute anything, In order for you to execute anything, the true execution process, it's understanding the trigger that is shame. It's understanding the trigger that is guilt, the insecurity, these buttons that just keep getting pressed. And realizing that you set those buttons there as limitations to yourself to learn the lesson in that space, all in honoring our thoughts. If I dishonor I'm gonna give you an example of dishonoring thought. If I were to woke up today, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I held myself in high exalt. I was like, nigga, you look awesome. Your work is showing off. You was out here doing your thing. You are burning shit down. The way that I would dishonor my thought is by looking at myself and feeling shame for feeling that way, feeling an insecurity for feeling that way about myself. In me dishonoring my thought, I'm giving myself an offering. I am a God. I'm ancient. I've been here. You've been here. I give myself an offering. What will my offering bring? What will my offering bring? So if I give myself this shameful aspect, like, oh, nigga, that's gay to be looking at yourself that way. Now I create this entire paradox in my mind of points of currents that'll be based in judgment. Everything that I just now built will be based on judgment. My shame, anything that I'm going to look at based in shame is based on judgment. So that means everything that I did as a catalyst for me to come to this point is going to give me that aspect of judgment. So now I can look back at a past life when I wasn't shit. When I was motherfucking, I can go back to my first experience. And I'm not saying, I'm talking about like the first experience. My first experience or my first expression of me being in this current, me being here. My first expression has been the same expression the entire time. I've been the same exact way the entire time. What stopped me from being me? What stopped me from experiencing me? What locked us down from experiencing yourself? Those stoppers, those buffers, those points that you put through your cycles for you to learn some shit from. And after I did the no beard thing, I can't do this anymore because I'd see myself without a beard, and I can't go back to not having a beard. That's neither here nor there. That's also an aspect of expression. Learning how to express yourself or express yourself outside of the need for the polarity of I'm doing that because I no longer want to put myself in a space where I'm like, I'm doing this for all of my ancestors that had to go through the struggle and pain and all that shit. I no longer want to do that. I no longer want to do that. And matter of fact, it's crazy because, usually we suffering some technical difficulties, but the way the energy flowing right now, which is going into the aspects of the framework we're going to be building tonight, of understanding your framework and what's stopping you, your resistance, what's giving you the resistance into your life, what's giving you resistance is all based on you. Everything giving you resistance, everything giving you that, and I'm just about to mass that. So if you in here, drop over there because I'm just about to mass send this through everybody on the messenger that's in the messenger list. Everybody in there, even my sister is included. She was the first one in, second, third, fourth. But yeah, I'm sending it out to everybody because this is an exciting time. It's a great time to be alive. I got some. The best way I'm going to explain tonight is in order to get off the plate, you got to eat that shit. In order to get off the plate, you got to eat that shit. In order to get off the plate, you got to eat your shit. You got to eat the shit you've been telling yourself. You got to eat the shit. You got to eat all of the shit that you have put into your space up till this point. You got to eat that shit. You eating that shit. Whoa! You're going to have to eat that shit tonight. It's time to, that is your key. That's the best way I can use to explain this. The best way I can explain it is you got to eat your shit. You have to eat your shit. You have had multitudes and multiple experiences. What ties them all together? What ties them all together? We can get stuck in, I had to go read. You can get stuck in anchoring. What we get stuck in when you dishonor your thought, ultimately, is you're anchoring yourself to an identity, or an anchor of an identity to exist within that space. Remember, there's nothing good or bad. Nothing good or bad. Everything needs to be done. So you have to go through these stages. What you get stuck in is the excitement where you must learn how to discipline your inner child. So, because I'll give you a nice example. I really had to sit with myself and allow the rewiring to take place. And the first thing that I thought today was like, if I do this, I cannot be this way in front of people. But then I was like, wait, that's exactly what this is coming up for me to let go of that aspect. That's my framework. I have to stop going against my framework. What the design of Lucifer is for at this aspect, at this juncture. The more that I truly become illuminated to the ones that are not ready, or the ones that are ready, I'm going to look pretty fucking dark. The ones that ain't ready, that I'm gonna look motherfucking auspicious as hell. Like, oh my God, I can't take what this nigga's saying. The nigga's hurting my feelings. Nigga, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's you coming. This is the true aspect of being outside of the spectrum and the spectrums that you created in learning your expression. Learning how to express yourself in true freedom and building the framework of that. But you're going to have to eat your shit first. You went through a life cycle. You went through a cycle. In your life, you went through many life cycles, and you went through a cycle in your life where you weren't shit. Hell, some of y'all right now going through, you ain't shit. You're going to have to eat that. There's a reason for it. There's an aptitude for it, because you have to accept it. That's why the traumas become so present within us, because those are the trauma is going to trigger something. It's always based on the same preset. You need that to happen. But you want to put yourself in limitation and be like, I never could see myself doing that. Use a lie. Because if you couldn't see yourself doing that, then it wouldn't be present. You're omnipresent. You're omnipresent. You're omnipotent. Your potency is based on your releasing from the limitation. So at a point in time, you've done something. You did something. That catalyst to create that aspect into your life where you're at now. You did it. You have to accept it. When I talk, like, if you did not tune into the podcast, talking about those vibes and those frequencies, You have to become exceptionally outside to be able to say, you know what? That's not a part of my path. The key to you accepting this point that I've had to learn for myself in accepting that point is trusting myself. And the key to trusting yourself is outside of that identity of that said space. So now you go into a space, we'll use an example. You go into a space, I don't have kids. I ain't had kids in this cycle. Not going. It's not going to be. It's not something I'm not going to. That's not for me in this cycle. So somebody can listen to me, and then they can get upset based on me saying something about fuck them kids or the way that I display things about kids, and they can get stuck on that point. That's their anchor point, because that anchor point is only present because in them they have not dealt with that point. That's the only way, that because their soul is naturally coming into this space to hear what I'm saying, for me to deliver what is being delivered. What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm only acting as the delivery system. When you are free of when we break away from shame, the identity that's based in your shame, the identity that you wanted to create in shame, based on shame. I'm not in shame. I'm living my best life. Why are you living your best life? If I took that away, would you still be living your best life? What is your framework? What is your framework? If I was to say right now, you got to leave your house and you have macaroni and cheese cooking in the fucking oven, and I said, no, nigga, we got to leave now. Why are you thinking about the macaroni and cheese in the oven? Why are you thinking about the macaroni and cheese that's in the oven? Man, because that's for the kids and that's for this and that's this and if I don't feed them, then it's tied to something that you're honoring in a thought. It's an offering that you're giving to a thought. What is its purpose? What is your purpose? Anything outside of your purpose, as I've said before, is your identity is going to automatically create a constriction, which means you'll feel the shame, the shame, the doubt, the guilt, the insecurity, and you'll feel the need to have to say something. You'll feel the need to have to speak on it. Let me go speak on this. Let me go tell them about this. Meanwhile, that very energy that you're now intercepted with, because you're experiencing it that way too, you haven't learned the levels, the faculties within inside of self to apply to actually be like, oh, you know what? I ain't got to do that. It made me really think about it made me really think about people that are now just coming into their shit, and like now they were like, ooh, it's like looking at somebody that'll go grab their cards and be like, ooh, I want to do a nice collective reading for everybody. That's something that they need to do. For me to look at it, the first steps that would come to me is like, I don't think anything of it. I don't have to think anything to say anything about it, think anything of it, because there's no doubt within inside of myself. I don't have a shame inside of myself. It's simply an expression being shared through that outlet. What can I get from that outlet? If it's not for me, then it's not for me. I know where I'm at. I trust myself. But you see long down these lines, you stop trusting yourself. Coming down that chute, you stop trusting yourself. So that one time, that one life when you was killing and knocking niggas' heads off, or you was a queen and you was a goddess and you was a queen and you was taking love offerings from every motherfucking body in that space, it came to this point, and now you have this unexplained shame to it, or the unexplained guilt or an insecurity. That stopper, exactly. that aspect for yourself, that's where dishonoring your thought, that's arrogance. That's the tyranny. That's arrogance, and that's your tyranny. You're reigning over yourself in tyranny based on the lack of shame of something that you did not have. So then you created an entire space for yourself to give yourself this exalting through an identity. Everything that you're gonna pick up is all about you, in the depth of you. There is nothing outside of you in that space. There's nothing outside of you, and the only way that you see it is going to be is it based on honoring the lower thought or the higher aspects of self. Not you wanting to be like, ooh, I want to honor my thought, because I used to give myself that same thought process. I wanted to honor my thoughts, and I was like, ooh, I just want to meditate and be serene, but I didn't have an understanding to myself. So it was like the furthest that I would get to is a nice whispering meadow and a river in the fucking corner somewhere, and I'd be sitting there in that space like, this is my peaceful space. Whenever my day is going down, or I'm going to come back to this space. You created that space out of arrogance. Accept it. You created that space out of arrogance. Because that's how you held yourself here, based on arrogance. You're holding yourself here. Why would I limit myself if I'm truly honoring my thought? Why would I limit myself just to simply that space? If I'm honoring my thought, why do I need to address that's the only reason I can go there? Because that's simply short and plain, that's going to be the only reason that you go there. That's the same reason niggas ride around right now, a Drake album come out, motherfuckers ride around thinking about their fucking baby mother. Or you can go into that same aspect every time somebody says something, there's going to be a future meme. All this shit, right? I can guarantee that tomorrow there shall be a future meme talking about, all this talk about celebrating and appreciating the day, it made me think about you. I'm guaranteeing there's going to be a future meme somewhere. Guaranteeing. But it's all in the acceptance of it. I'm not looking for it because I know it can be displaced. I know it can be there. I've removed all limitations, and that allows me to build my framework. Yes, I've removed all limitations. Even when I say the aspects of framework, it's only to illustrate this web of your space. I had to let go of, in order for me to be where I'm at now, I really had to let go of being seen a certain way, being seen a certain way, or me delivering a certain way. I was like, all of those was based on the lack mindset, the doubt, the insecurity, and all of these aspects. And I could very well have expressed through that. But the undercurrent, the undertone of someone coming into the space and coming to me for a consultation, coming to me for their healing work, to be that vessel for them, be that vessel to help aid them. It would only be through doubt. It would only be through a certain boat passage. I don't want you to come to me. Don't need you to come to me when you're in doubt. When you are feeling these lower aspects of yourself. Because that would show within me when I had to learn these stages. Because I remember looking at like previous posts from like 2-3 years ago when I first really started putting out God thoughts. Before I even came into my full healed aspect, to be the healer aspect, before I became fully ingrained into where I'm at now. I remember looking at certain posts, and I would look at people say things on them posts like, God is this and this and this and exalting, and God is good and all these things. And I would look and I would be triggered. Even And the key to me being triggered, it wasn't based on, well, I didn't say it the way they said it or the way they said it. I approached it very intellectually. Fuck that shit. It was the fact that I felt the need to even say anything to it in the first place. Because it was showing me something about my framework. It was showing me something about myself that I needed to deal with. The more I started dealing with it, the more I started eating my shit and realizing like, damn, I don't need to the more I started realizing the framework that I needed to lay. So I can stop going. So you will not see me sit here and go bash somebody talking about their religion and their why. What is the need for me to do that? That's what's stopping our people. That's what's hurting our people now. This right here and the vaccine and the emasculation of the black man and the black woman and all that. That's neither here. That's all done. That's the form of expression. That's the shame. That's the guilt. That's the identity. That's what you keep getting pirated into. Your energy keeps getting pirated into these identities because you want to honor that thought. If I'm my ancestors, that means I am exalting and exploding everything else. I'm removing all of the shame, the doubt, and everything. I'm removing all of that shit. Because that's the only way I can fully use that energy. That's the only way I'm going to honor that thought. So it becomes a secondary, everything else becomes a secondary aspect to me in my lane, what I'm doing. Everything now is this, it's there, I can accept it. I don't have to be like, ooh, let me go, because that's not what I'm here for. My purpose, my direction, my purpose, my actions, my directions is based on what I'm doing now. Anything outside of that is an experience or an emotional aspect that I haven't learned about myself yet. So if I feel the need to, I'm going to go, if I felt like if some, y'all, I'll probably never see me do that. But for some reason, nigga, I'm about to go advocate abortions. But I just sat here and digested the entire Gnostic text about how you keep getting stuck back here. So I just digested that shit and shit that out, but I want to go over here and do that. I'm going to apply this energy into that because I don't want to look too, fuck that shit. Your healing is going to take you to the next tax bracket. Your healing is a tax bracket. Your ownership of your healing, your abilities, where you're going to, that's your tax bracket. You got to get out of that lack-minded mentality tax bracket. That lack mentality, that shame tax bracket. You ashamed for you sitting there in a certain space. But meanwhile, you unconsciously, because you want to express it, now you want to go get crystals and beads and shit. And then now but you're not understanding why you're doing it, why the expression what it is. Everything that's a part of my part of me right now is invoked with my energy. It speaks to me. I speak to it. We speak through one another. With or without these items, I'm still this energy. I'm not defined by the items. These items, I'm not saying, ooh, I'm not growing my nails out. I don't have my nails manicured and keep myself put together in this underlining sense of maybe I might be a little bit suspect. Nigga, I'm androgynous. That has nothing to do with me. Me keeping myself in order, me healing myself, me being in a healed position, me being in the divine masculine position. That's the ultimate example of expression. That's my framework. I'm going to build on that framework. My framework has no limitation. It's when you get stuck within this mindset, when you get stuck within these faculties, the shames, the doubts, and you're like, but I still got these mother wounds I got to deal with. The first thing that I give all of my clients when you're going through these aspects of your mother wounds, your father wounds, your brother did something to you, your uncle did something to you, your Aunt Remus, or whoever, that is an aspect of yourself, experiencing yourself. I'm going to get you to that point. We get you to that point. Because until you get to that point, you can't fully take in that energy. You can't fully you're going to be stuck to something. Something's going to keep you stuck here. You're going to be stuck in shame somewhere. Your shame in doing something so it's like, let's say, okay, cool. I'll give you an example. You build I could have built my entire platform on a fear narrative. Could have whole platform on a fear narrative. And right now, I probably would have been sitting here trying to decode some shit. That's not me. I'll be sitting here saying, don't do this. That's not me. It's not my job. It's none of our jobs to be sitting there like, no, you can't go. The hell I look like. Experience builds the expression. The expression sets the standard and the tone for that space. It needs to be inside of that space to experience something within inside of itself. It's going through its process. Trust this process. If I have a doubt of, I love decoding for myself. That's the major key for yourself. You're not doing these things like, I'll give you an example. There's an app for everything to keep your ass stuck here. There's an app for everything. There's an app for everything to get your ass stuck. There's an app for it. But if I came in and went just like this into your house right now and removed every app from your fucking phone, how would you function? This is a simple question. Like, how would you function? Who would you be without any of those apps? I asked myself that question because now that I'm rewired my brain, everything that I go into, I now understand, is it based or I'm guiding myself and honoring my thought in a purpose? Rather than me sitting there, I'm going to use this as a catalyst or my anchor outside of myself. As long as I got that anchor outside of me, that's something I have to experience. That's something I have to experience through. The most dishonoring thought is when you put yourself into a position because you want to be in high exalting yourself and that you're carrying that same energy, but you ain't learned your shame is really this. Your lack of shame is this arrogance. Your lack of, I'm going to express myself. I'm liberated. You're doing it through the stream of arrogance. You're dependent upon something. So you sitting there in that space like, yeah. Because in reality, like if you were really doing it to express yourself, why the fuck would it matter what somebody says? Why would it matter? Why would it matter what somebody says to you in that space? Because ultimately, as the observer, if it comes into my space, I can filter through it and see if it's me, if it's something I really need to digest, or if it's something that I've already previously passed and I can just allow it to go to the wayside, allow it to go through what it need to go through. They're amply using me as the vessel for whatever they need it for. I trust in myself, my spiritual stamina to go through said transgression because they might need it. The things that would dishonor your thoughts when you're sitting there saying, I would never go through that, or I could never do that to somebody. Yes, you can, because you have. At a point in time, you've done it. You have to accept that you've done it. You got to accept it. You got to forgive yourself that you've done it. You got to accept and acknowledge that you did the shit. The aptitude of that thought process. Bring it into the higher realm. Honor the thought. Take it to the higher realm. How many of y'all done walked around and you done seen shorty walk by in the sundress and you like, God damn, that shit look nice. But how are you honoring that thought? How are you honoring that thought or that energy in yourself? Instead of you keeping it down, bottled down into the lower aspects of yourself, and you like, man, I can't say that shit out loud. If I say that to her, then she gonna feel this. It ain't about saying that shit to her. You can say that same shit in your fucking head. You can have that whole conversation with shorty in your head. You can have that whole conversation about old buddy and his sweatpants and that print in your head. But how are you translating this into the highest aspects of understanding for yourself? Because that's the reason that you're feeling it. You got to remove that shame. We're going to get deep into this shame shit tonight. Because you got to remove that shame because there's a reason that you saw it anyway. It led you to something. It led you to a thought. It led you to a feeling. But you got to remove those, oh my God, I shouldn't be having that thought about that. Because why? Why can't you have that thought? Why can you not have that thought? Because you haven't learned how to honor it. You haven't learned how to take it to the highest level. I talked about this in I broke this down. I broke down the sacred energy exchange and the sacred energy exchange lecture on here. But it's all about honoring that thought and taking it to the highest point of yourself. Instead of me sitting there and be like, oh shit, shorty got on a nice dress. Yeah, she got on a nice dress. What is this energy telling me? What is this energy leading me to? If I'm holding this energy in, or I want to, now I got to go get it off somewhere. Because even when you getting it off in the lower urge, you're just now using something down here physically to manipulate the same shit. Instead of you taking the energy in and using it for yourself, you allowing it to go down to the wayside. Your shame, your doubts, your guilt, it all goes back into that same pool. The same pool of fucking degenerative bullshit that you get stuck in. And you just keep, I'm going to dip in there a little, I'm going to stick my toe in there a little bit. All that ain't me. All that ain't me down there. All that ain't me. You are the sum of everything in that fucking shit-ass pool you put down there. This is why a lot of us, when we come into the aspects of like really doing our work, and one thing I had to learn was it wasn't avoidance. I really looked, I was like, nigga, I'm avoiding a lot of shit. Or I'm still abandoning I've taken my abandonment issues and I'm transmuting through abandonment. So everything that I can now get rid of or abandon, it still hits that, it's still like, oh yeah, so I'm abandoning shit. So I'm doing the work. I wasn't really doing the work. This is that part of that process. A lot of the things that you saying, I'm gonna avoid this, and it keep coming back up. I healed through that, and I dealt with this, and da 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 da. No, you haven't dealt with it. That's why it keeps coming back up into this. That's why it keeps cycling back around. You have not accepted it for what it is, not based on what it looked like and judging it, and that's changing that current. We're changing the current from judgment or caring to compassion or discernment. My ability to use discernment increases or enhances my awareness. When you stuck within judgment, it dampens your awareness. It dampens your ability. Let me change that. It dampens your ability to use your awareness to the fullest potential. Anything you're doing based on judgment, it puts you in a position to where you're limiting your potential. You're acknowledging that I'm limiting my potential. When you want to stand for something, I'm going to stand for this, or I'm going to stand for that, I'm going to stand for this, I'm going to stand for that, or stand for whatever it may be. Now you standing for some shit, you're proclaiming that you need that polarity to exist. You need that lie, or you need that truth. That's why some motherfuckers run around like, all I want you to do is tell me the truth. Tell me that you fucked her. So you already created this idea in your mind, sis. You already created the idea in your mind. So it don't matter what the fuck he says, because if it doesn't fit your argument, it doesn't fit your argument, you cannot no longer express or react the way that you want to react. Honor your thoughts. Every time you've had a thought, think about how many thoughts you have in a day. Think about where your thoughts lead you to. How many of your thoughts are based in reaction? I'm reacting to this, I'm reacting to that, I'm reacting to that. I've talked about it all week. One of the biggest aspects talked about in the God Hour show. Go look at yourself in the mirror. Go look at yourself in the mirror. The same process, because everybody like, if you hold your thought for 17 seconds, and then you hold your thought for 17 seconds, and then to manifest it, you hold it for another 68.5 seconds, and da 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 da. There's a reason to the holding part. Just not holding it and hoping, it's holding it and allowing it actually to build something. That means if I look in the mirror at myself for about 5-10 good minutes, the first aspect for myself would be like, I'd be tearing myself down. Like, man, damn, like I got this scar, I got this, I got this, I got this. So I'd be sitting there literally enlarging, magnifying my insecurity, magnifying my shame, magnifying my guilt. So now that I magnified my guilt, magnified my shame, now I'm going to carry these lenses augmented through shame in this aspect. And now everything that I'm experiencing will be based on the reaction of shame. That means if I look at my phone, if I pick up my phone and I go on my Facebook page, if I go on my phone and look at my Facebook page and I see somebody and I'm looking at it, I'm using all of that to create the identity to use my energy in that space instead of me actually being in that space. Unconscious, conscious. Instead of me actually having to go through it, I create something to go through it for me. So I never have to experience it. So I can simply sit back and observe it. So I can simply sit back and judge it. Let me judge this now. Oh, you did this or this happened with this. Because I fear to experience it. Or my fear or my underlying trauma of me experiencing that at one point in time, I don't want to deal with. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want to deal with it. It's too hard. But the reason I'm not dealing with it is because the white man did this, or the reason I can't do this is because that the reason that feminine bullshit. I sit in the normal. I just sit sometimes, and I'll go through YouTube channels, and like one of my favorite YouTube channels go through is Abba and Preach, and I sit there and I just psychoanalyze the damn hell out of it. Just sit there and allow myself to decode it. And I just wait for the point. And I'm like, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Like there's one where it was like this feminist group, and like this panel of men for men's rights or whatever. And the Asian dude sitting up front, he was like, he asked Shorty, how and why? How did you come to this discourse for men, and why do you feel that way? She was like, what do you mean? She automatically sounded defensive. What do you mean how and why? I'm going to tell you why. And he allowed her to speak. And she was like, because the first time I said no to a boy, I was 16 and I got a bottle thrown at me. And the second time that some shit happened to me is this man came and disrespected me. Here's the bill. The man disrespected me, and then he didn't stop until he saw my husband. And instead of acknowledging me, he acknowledged my husband in that space. You see how you create the expression based on insecurity, based on shame, based on a lack of doubt for yourself? That's how you created that space. So you created an entire figment, this entire framework, and you gave it a body. You gave it a life. You gave it a voice. You gave it a sound. You gave it everything that it needed to do what it needed to do. What are you learning from it? That's one of them. This is the key aspect. And what did you learn from it? Everything down here is based on a level of expression. Everything down here is on a level of expression. You can get stuck within the aptitudes of not applying to yourself And then you'll be like, but nah. Because there's people that are like, yo, what's the best sign for you? And what's the worst sign for you? And, nigga, the best sign was my sign. At first I would be shameful to say that to myself, like, man, my sign's the best sign. But then the doubt and the aptitude, like, oh my God, I can't believe you said Aquarius. Nigga, I didn't say I was just an Aquarius. I didn't say that was the sign. That's just what y'all saw me through because that's how I said it first. So I'm now outside of that space. I'm like, nigga, I'm still the best sign. I have no shame in saying that I am the best sign. Because in your own case, I want you to get to a point to be like, I am the best sign. Because until you get to that point, you can't understand all of those traits. You can't bring all of these traits to the forefront to be able to use them in their limitless potential to build yourself. Build what you want. Be what you want and build for yourself. It's only when you start getting stuck, that's when you get stuck in the current of age, the currents of ages, because anything that's aging you is because you have not learned to embrace the time within that space. Anything that got your ass sitting there like, man, I'm tired of this, and man, this one time, you still stuck on the first time. It ain't even got nothing to do with that, but you still stuck on the first time something bad happened to you, and that became your expression of time. That became your expression of time. Your expression of time is locked behind a shame, is locked behind a doubt, is locked behind an identity that you have to go understand. That one time in your life where you felt like you were at your weakest point, you didn't know any better. You didn't know any better. You didn't know what you know now. That's the point where your inner child is sitting there with a picture, that's holding up the picture every time, like trying to show you, like, look, see, this is what I've been drawing the entire time. But you allowed that shame, you allowed yourself to build something on top of it, so you didn't want to deal with it. So now you're sitting there stuck in this pragmatic thought that if I step outside of this identity, y'all don't want to see me step outside myself. What the fuck does that mean? You don't want to see me step outside myself. Maybe that's why they keep doing it, because you need to step outside of yourself. Maybe if you step outside of yourself, then you actually could observe yourself. Wow, that's really what I look like? Go back into, like, when we go back down past life regression and go look back just at your current life, where you at right now, go back and look at yourself. Really go look at yourself. Outside of, as you're going through, you're removing the biases, you're removing judgment, you're removing the insecurity, because you're going to feel it. And it's going to feel hot. When you go back and look at yourself, you're going to feel hot. This is why when you go into them deep, you're going to feel hot. Don't fall for the heat. Like, ooh, I'm feeling the power. No, keep going. Because that's the same thing when you're subsequenting to the urge. Honor the thought, let it go all the way up. Honor the thought, let it go all the way up. Let that feeling go all the way up to the top. Stop getting caught up. Ooh, it's warm. It's warm. I got to release. It's warm. It's hot. It's hot. Because that's like the same thing when you were told what's hot and what's cold. You got to let go of what's hot and hold on to what's cold. You're releasing from that aspect. Allow yourself to sit with it. That's the impurity. That's the impurities being poured out of your system. That's the same thing when you do a detox and everything's now coming out of your system. Now you got a hankering for sweets and shit that you can have a whole thought process for food that you ain't ate in fucking years, but you're doing that detox. It's coming to the surface. Honoring your thought. The whole stream of this is going to be honoring your thought. Allow it to come. Allow it to happen. Allow the ugliness to happen. A lot of us can get stuck in those ugly phases because in a past life, that's where, and this is the aspect where you got the old crone, the barren woman, the barren, you keep getting images of barren women in dreams and and old crones in your dreams and old aspects in your dreams. That's you. There's an aspect of you that you have not yet let go of. There's something that you have to let go of, the thought of being birthed or seen in that way. You got to let go of being birthed or seen in that way. You will never be what it is that you're. That's why you keep coming back to why I keep getting these images of old barren women and keep having abortion dreams and shit, because you're trying to birth yourself through an old identity that's no longer subservient to you. That's what you're being shown. It's time to kill off trying to birth things through that identity. Let go of it. It didn't serve a purpose. The real reason that is there is not the reason that the real reason that is there is not what you're trying to make it to be. But I gotta be no. Because without that, are you still the best mother? Without me being, that's like me being in the aptitude. Why would I stop myself if this is how it wires in your mind? Can I be the best father without fathering children? Yes, I can. Yes, I have. At points, yes, I have. I'm releasing from shame. I'm releasing from doubt and insecurity. Yes, I have. Because there was cycles of my life where I played the father for the reason why I did it. That's what I had to go learn in that space. In that same space of me playing the father role to these two young lads in my past, just like 2000, like earlier 2000s, me playing that aspect of them is because I needed to learn the expression aspect of acceptance for myself. I had no shame in doing it, because if I don't address the experience, if I don't address the emotion that I felt, that I was exuding or using through that space, that's what becomes the shame. That which becomes the doubt. That which becomes that. That's how that. Put that over there. It becomes that gum sitting under the fucking table. That you sitting like, man, I don't want to deal with that anymore. You went through that experience for a reason. Your reaction to it is what you're trying to learn. I don't need to react to it anymore. This goes on to the other aspect of that to yourself. As you're going through your process, one of the worst things that can happen is your boat gonna change. Your whole boat's gonna change. You went from the yacht where all they had was bottled waters. You went from the yacht to bottled water. You were on the little small boat with the bottled waters, and now you sitting there on a new boat, and they got you orange juice. They got you orange juice mixed with coconut sake. You in a different boat. You in a different space. Now it's time for you to start observing now you can observe from that space. I can't observe things that I haven't experienced yet. I cannot observe the things that I've not yet accepted the experiences. I cannot fully observe in discernment, with compassion, in feel, in the aptitude of the true essence of that love with myself. In every space of what I'm doing, if I haven't acknowledged the experience within myself first. This is where a lot of us can get stuck at, because that identity that you want to maintain, I want to be this and I want to look like that, and but I still want to look like this and still look like that. That's your framework. You can look like whatever the fuck you want. I can look like whatever the fuck I want. Even in that aspect for myself, I look like whatever the fuck you need me to look like. That has nothing to do with me. I'm not here to change your perception of me. I'm not here to make you understand me. I'm not here to do that. I'm I'm not here to be anything more than what you need me to be in that point in time. Your definition of that is based on, are you going through an avoidant aspect of yourself? Because you can make me out. Shit. My energy's still the same, but how you're taking it in, is it coming through a channel of avoidance, neglect? Oh my God, he's saying all the right things. He's saying this and he's saying that, or he's doing all these things. Where in your points in your life do you not say these same things to yourself? That's the aspect of everything else that happens outside of you is going to be exceptional because you're already exceptional. I don't need something outside of me to be like, oh my God, this nigga is awesome. Because I'm outside of that realm of even, I already know that of myself. I trust myself in the process. But if I get stuck in that channel of I need motherfuckers to see me a certain way, I'll sit here and start doing dumb shit just to get views, because that's how I'm gonna feed through that energy. He's not demonstrating any shame or any none of this stuff. Yeah, I am. I'm demonstrating shame. I'm demonstrating shame. I'm demonstrating insecurity. I'm demonstrating doubt, because that's the reason, because I started my entire aspect in saying those aspects. So now my flow is constricted. Anything, because now I'm going to be judging myself to say, if I sound too strong, then, oh my God, they're going to look at me this way, because I need to feed that doubt. If I say it too low, then I need to feed that guilt. I need to feel that. I need to feed that void. I need to feed something. I need to honor that thought. That thought needs to be addressed. Instead of me using it in the aspect from now, taking it to the highest aptitude. So when I'm inside of a space and I get that feeling or that thought or that feeling, the energy in the space, I'm not going to use it to benefit from nothing in the space. I'm taking it to the highest point. Instead of me using it in the lower narrative, where I don't want to apply it to myself fully. I don't want to, that ain't got nothing to do with me. That ain't me. That ain't me. This ain't this. That's where you get stuck in that same expression. So that's why you got motherfuckers that run around full of it. You got to be full of acceptance in yourself. In every aptitude to yourself, you got to be full of that. You got to accept you on every level. And I just said, don't get stuck in the warmth part. Like, oh, it's warm. It's warm. It's warm. That means I'm feeling it. No. That's the impurity process. Stop getting stuck in the impurity process. The impurity process to the human is the light being, when in every fucking mythos, when fire was brought down to the fucking humans. Fire was brought down to the humans. That's you. No, don't give into that aspect. You're taking it to the highest point in your mind. Taking it to the highest point. No matter how it makes you feel. That means you're taking shame. That means what you used to feel shameful for doing, you're taking it to the highest point to assess it here. To assess it here. Stop trying to assess things where they're in that space. It does me no good to assess things in the space where they're at. I'm not going to go look for, because this is, you automatically looking for trouble. You looking for problems. You looking for motherfuckers to connect to with your problems. This is how you get stuck in this avoidance. This is that avoidance cycle. Now you stuck. Now you giving motherfuckers the same fucking shit. Because now you found somebody on your Facebook page, on your IG, on your Snap, whatever the fuck it is, and they liked your picture because you had the identity of, it's hard being a single mother. It's hard being a mom. It's hard being a single dad. I got to do this, and 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 I got to do this. You mean you got to do the basic aspects? Those are basic aspects. What's being triggered is What's being triggered within you is that you exalted yourself above taking care of your basic aspects. That's what this is, one of the corresponding aspects of the trigger. You were like, oh shit, it's because I'm still lingering off of an old wound, that mother wound, that father wound, the lack of nurturing that you had from your own mother, which is in continuum of the lack of nurturing that you gave your mother or your child or your past lives. The lack of nurturing that you gave yourself, or the lack of nurturing that you did not learn in yourself in your past lives. The more shame that got attached to it, the more guilt that got attached to it, the more debris that you allowed to be attached to your thought process brought it to this current point. And then you sitting there like, now I'm going to be the best mother ever. I'm going to be the best mother on the... Okay, that's nice. Do you want a cookie? Do you want a cookie for being the best mother ever? Do you want a cookie for being the best father ever? Do you want a cookie for being the best boyfriend, best husband? Why? Why do you want a cookie? Why do you want a cookie for that shit? Why do you feel you need a cookie for that? Why do you feel you need that to be the accolade, to be exalted above all others? Yeah, because the last thing that you want to be seen as, at the end of the day, you're afraid to be wiped out of existence. Yeah. At the end of the day, you're afraid to be wiped out of existence. You're afraid of wiping yourself out of the existence of your space where you're at. You're afraid of wiping yourself out of existence. That's why you stay there so deep. That's the undercurrent. We get deep into your healing. There's an undercurrent. That aptitude of fear is you fear not knowing what you are outside of the existence of the identity. That trauma made you. So as long as I always say the trauma made me, then I can always move forward. I always have something to base off of. So my existence, my omnipresence is in that space. But you can't become omnipotent. Omnipresence and omnipotent is two different processes. Just like transformation, going through transformation and the full metamorphosis is two different processes. Becoming enlightened and being illuminated is two different processes. It's two different processes to get to that point. To become illuminated is free of all the need for all of the expressions. Simply being enlightened is acknowledging that I am the expressions of I am acknowledging my dynamic of all things. Ooh, I'm aware that I'm this, but I'm not that. Yeah, you are. Now you got to go through the process of understanding, like, yeah, I am that too. Oh, that's me too. Yeah, that's me. Yeah. I've done some underhanded shit that could have done some shit like that. Because you're removing the physical aptitude of, oh my God, I can never see myself doing that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can see yourself doing that. Because that's the ultimate of no shame. I love my inner child. I love Carlos. Carlos is the greatest motherfucker on the planet. I love my inner child. I have no shame in loving my inner child. I have no doubt, no insecurity, no jealousy in loving my inner child. But if I sit there and something come up on the screen talking about pedophilia, I'm like, that means it's something that I need to address inside of myself. Why do I feel so strongly? Why does this feeling why do I replicate or feed from this feeling so strongly? It's something that I need to accept or deal with. It's something that you got to deal with. You can go back and forth and say, You can go back and forth with yourself and say, because you're going to be saying the same thing on both sides. If you were to say, for example, if you were to say, outside of your mouth, if you were to say outside of your mouth, because I've seen posts of it, if you were to look outside of your mouth, if you were to say outside of your mouth of my daughter or my daughter should be able to wear her shorts in the house all day, and Uncle Ronnie or Uncle Bob or Dylan or whoever the fuck should not be coming over, and that triggers you, that means you need to acknowledge that wound. You still got that wound present inside of yourself. You still have a wound, a past transgression inside of yourself that's giving you that, because you have to isolate and understand what feeling you're feeling. Not just, oh, I'm frustrated or I'm angry about it. What is the undercurrent to it? What is the undercurrent? I don't give a fuck about you being mad. I don't care a fuck about you being frustrated. I don't care a fuck about you being sad. I don't give a fuck about your feelings. I am here to help you understand the undercurrent. I don't give a fuck about your feelings. I don't care about your feelings. I have the aptitude of compassion to unconditionally display and be able to say the things that are needed and directed inside of that space. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm here to show you these tools. They just keep coming up. I can sit here like the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future, and just sit there, stand with your ass, and be like this. You ever looked at it and like the motherfucker just standing there? You can't change anything. You can't do anything. You got to accept it. Because the ghost of the past, Christmas past, told you about accepting the past and understanding your present, so you can now categorize and understand and expressing your full future. No limits. Removing your limitation. So if you still got that underlying trauma that you ain't want to deal with, because because if I start dealing with my traumas and start crying, I start getting all sensitive and shit. Nigga, fuck them niggas. Man, if I start talking about my traumas and my if I start disclosing that I feel constricted in my own womb because I had a lack of love from my mother from the womb, and I start displaying that, my homegirl's gonna look at me bad. Or my homeboy's gonna look at me bad. You gotta let that shit the fuck go. That shit's gonna leave your ass weak. That's gonna leave you in the aptitude of the weakness within the lower aspect of yourself. It's gonna leave your shadow in those dark points. It's gonna leave your inner child in those dark spaces. Because now you're sitting there like, I don't want to deal with that part of myself yet. Okay. But guess what? When your soul is ready to deal with it, it's going to bring it up. When your soul is ready to deal with it, it's going to bring that shit up. When your soul is ready to deal with that transgression, that issue is going to bring that shit up. It's going to bring it up. You can't avoid it anymore. Because you exalted yourself and said you were a god. You exalted yourself and said you were a goddess. You exalted yourself and said, I'm a king and I'm a queen. Okay, cool. Royalty surveys. Gods create. Titans devour. Ancient ones just watch the cycle is the ultimate observers. The giants open up gateways. Okay, cool. But what does that mean for you? I know what that entails for me, because that lines down my gate. I know what that entails for me because it lines out my gateway to where I'm at now. But what does that mean for you? That's the aptitude of what you're learning from that space. Or you can sit there in your space and be up. Yeah, I'm going to be. That's nice. You're going to have to deal with this stuff on levels without shame. Everything inside of the levels with you is teaching you to step outside of shame. It's teaching you to step outside of doubting yourself. A lot of us get stuck in our spaces with ourselves. A lot of us get stuck in them spaces with ourselves of avoidance, because craziest part about avoidance, craziest thing about neglect, craziest thing about your anxious attachments, your avoid all of these attachments, the place that you keep trying to, the place that you call the craziest, that means you saying your parents is, your family crazy and they don't understand you and all of that shit. It's because you ain't digested it yet. You ain't partook of your own shit yet. You ain't smelled your own shit yet. You left shit over there. You got to go pick that shit up. You got to smell it. You got to smell that shit. You got to smell your own shit. You can't avoid that process. You can't avoid going through that. You can't avoid addressing it, because until you address it, you can't accept it. So you can't apologize. It's not going to be about your mother telling you, and I say this to my clients all the time, it's not going to be about your mother telling you, it's not about you giving your mother this, you wrote this script in your mind that if your mother says this, that everything's going to be okay. That's not going to happen. You got to release from the thought that that is going to happen. Release it from your mind that that's going to happen. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but release it from your mind that it can happen. Just like you want to release, just like you release the thought of it never happening, of if it, when it happens, then you'll do some shit, is the same aptitude of thought that you got to release from saying it's not going to happen. What am I going to do regardless with the elements that are displayed in front of me? If my mother does not say, you know what, I was young, I was dumb, because in my mind, that conversation is the conversation I'm having with myself. How many times have I replicated this conversation in my mind in different scenarios, dishonoring my thought of myself, dishonoring the trust within myself, dishonoring these aspects within inside of me? How many times have I done it? How many times? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. How many times have you done it? That's what you're acknowledging now. That's the acknowledgement process. Now you must accept that I did not have the knowledge that I have now. That's where a lot of people will get stuck and be like, you get stuck on that boat because you got on the boat. You get on the boat. Oh yeah, I'm on the boat because I'm black. Oh, I'm on the boat because of this. Oh, I'm on the boat because I don't like this. Okay, cool. Now you sitting on that boat. Now everything that you're going to manifest is going to come off that boat. That means you're going to take a record for everything that you're going to be manifesting is coming off of that boat. That's where the avoidance is going to kick back in. That's where the neglect is going to kick back in. That's where the anxiousness is going to kick back in. Because you're going to be, oh my God, I don't want that part. Now you anxious to get rid of it. Because you didn't acknowledge that, nigga, oh, wait, whoa. You mean this whole dynamic of thought process is me? I put all this together? Yes, you put it all together. Wait, but that means this, and this? Yes, that's all. You put that together. You did this. You did this to yourself. You did this in aptitudes to understand yourself even more. But why would I put myself through that? I would never put nobody should go through this. Then you start feeling the shame again. You start feeling doubt. You start feeling insecurities. You start feeling rejection. You start feeling it again because you want to start, you're trying to get back off. You're trying to get, now I'm going to get off. No, you got to stay in that shit. You got to stay in your shit. You have to allow yourself to sit there in that shadow and stew in your own shit. You created it, but you want everybody else to partake of that. You want everybody to partake of your emotional distress. You want everybody to think about that to yourself. Would you want to eat the soup? If you looked at yourself right now as a soup, would you want motherfuckers to eat it? Would you allow motherfuckers to even drink your soup of you? Just think about the attitude of that aspect to yourself. Would you want motherfuckers to drink you? Can you get past the point of like, ugh, nigga want to drink my bath water. Bitch want to drink my bath water. That's nasty. Can you get past that point? Why would you not want it? Could you drink your own bath water? These are the simple questions these are the simplest questions of simple aptitudes that are gonna change the synapses of your entire mind. I drink my own bath water. I drink my own bath water. I drink my own bath water because I know in the aptitude of what I'm putting into it. Because you're going to do it anyway. If you deny that, if you deny taking that thought to the highest point of your mind, in your mindset, you're going to do it anyway through a subsequent urge. The urge or the identity, the demi-urge or the identity, the half-ass thought. You're going to do it through some half-ass thought anyway. Ugh, nigga, that's gay. Old Hotepist niggas talking about, nigga, that's gay. But if I go look at their browsing their computer on their laptop right now and I looked at Pornhub, I guarantee they got MandingoWarriors.com streamed up in there. Nah, that's different though. No, it ain't. It's the same shit. You just subsequented your urge into something. You hid your shame. You hid it in an application thinking nobody could see it. But the only person that needs to see it and deal with it is you. That's why you go through so many aspects in your life. You try to be accepted. So many aptitudes and aspects of my life, I was trying to be so accepted. It was so fucking crazy. And I put it under the mask, and I put those masks under the mask of shame, the mask of doubt, the mask of shame, and all of these aspects. And I did those things. I've done some shameless shit. You've done some shameless shit. Own it. Ownership. The ownership mentality is not going to be based upon when most people think about this ownership mentality. If I own something, that means I can cover it up or I can hide away the things I don't want people to see. That's not ownership. That's a subsidiary. You're now in the mindset of you're a subsidiary. Remember, you are already a corporation. You are a brand. You are a brand. You are a LLC. You are a company. You are a corporation. You are a number anyway. How you decide to disclose your information into the space is going to set your statute of limitations. I ain't got no limitations. I ain't got no limits. There's no limits to this shit. I'm lit. There's no limits to this shit. I'm free of all. You're freeing your. I'm free from those aspects. Since I'm free from these aspects, now I can. Now I can look at that. Now it's like, instead of me sitting here holding the aspect in my head, like, nah, I got to keep that back there. I got to keep that back there. I got to keep back there. I don't want to experience that right now. I want to experience this right now. That's what's aging your ass. You holding on to those experiences. So when you start actually letting go of them, that's when the process starts to happen. It's only when you let go of the thought that it starts to happen. It's only when you're in realization, whether consciously or unconsciously, that it happens, that you start aging. You just didn't start aging. You've been aged. You're just now looking at it. Right? You're not just now looking at it. Same aptitude of anything that you're doing. It's always been in your face right there. You're just now seeing it. Them conversations that you had that were talking about nothing. They've always been conversations about nothing. The only way that you're able to see that it's a conversation about nothing is because now you're having conversations that are taking you to a higher aptitude, or they're challenging your thought. Your key is not to be like, well, let me bring that. No, stop trying to bring it back down. Stop trying to bring what you've learned in the higher aspect of yourself. Stop trying to bring it back down. Allow it to go all the way up so it can cycle. Allow it to cycle and do it. It's going to drop down there anyway. That's that bird's eye. It's going to drop down. It's going to drop down there anyway. All based on how you honor your thought. A lot of us move in a dishonored process with ourselves because our space resembles it. Your exact space, when I was talking about space and opportunity, your exact space represents it represents guilt, shame, doubt, and everything else. How attuned are you with your space? How attuned are you with your tools? Remember, everything down here is teaching you how to maximize to yourself. So how attuned are you to your tools? How attuned are you to your own self? Because everything else is simply an enhancement of you. So now if somebody, like I use an example. My deck. If I have my deck in my hand and if somebody with an unsavory energy touch my deck, I'd be like, that nigga touched my deck. I gotta do all this other extra shit. That means I have not exalted myself to the ability to just, no, I'm gonna hold this over here. This is mine. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. I am not came into the full expression to be able to say like, yo, you can't touch that. I got to get out of that mindset. If they touch it, it's something that if they're drawn to it, like, ooh, what's that? It's the same thing if you have children, it's like, ooh, what's that? Why you smack their hand away? Like, explain, build the framework of what that is and what it means. Build the framework. Build that framework. If I sat here and somebody but like, get off my cards. No, I'm gonna explain this tool. It's a tool. If I look at this as, no, my deck is me and I am my deck, I don't need the deck anymore. I'm only acknowledging that I still need the deck in some aptitude. I don't need the deck to do readings. I use the deck in order to illustrate what I'm saying and what I'm channeling, what I'm bringing down. That's when I use the cards. I can have a whole conversation. I'm doing a whole lecture. And I can do this whole exact same lecture and read cards and use the cards because me and the cards are one. These are just going to illustrate what I'm saying. I'm going to use an example. I can sit here right now. Here's my Oracle deck. And I can sit here and just pull off cards. And build an entire story. Build an entire story. And build an entire story. Or build the entire treatment of what I'm saying right now. Of everything that I've already said. That's how confident. That's confidence within your aspects of your own self. That's your confidence. That's your confidence within the understanding of your own self, within you. That's what you're building yourself up to. That's why if you go into your, like, so use that example. If I'm going to go to my mom's house now, go to my mom's house like this with one of my decks hanging off me like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I don't think nothing of it. It's not going to change the perception of myself. Now, inside of that space, my mom can look at me and I can feel that energy coming to me, like doubt or the scaredness or fear or any of these aspects. But that in that space, I'm no longer avoiding being the true aspect or authentic aspect of me in that space. I'm no longer, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go over there and do that. I'm at that same time, because if it truly don't float for me, I'm not going to do it anyway. That's you acceptance. Acknowledging is being able to go into that space and be you. Acceptance is being able to walk out of that space or to be able to sit there and talk to yourself and be like, you know what? That's no longer for me. I've done what I needed to do there. I've experienced what I needed to experience. That mother wound was a wound of my own making. I created that wound. I posted a picture on my Facebook and on Instagram. I shared it. And it was talking about the womb. The mother's womb and every womb and every thought. Every thought you are ever going to have, you've already had. Think about that. Every thought you've ever had, you've already had. Every thought that you've ever had, you've already had. Because that's the same physical representation of every egg in the womb is every egg that you will ever have. That means every egg is every thought that you ever will have. Same shit with semen. Every drop of semen that's in your sack is every thought that you've ever had. When you really understand and honoring your thought, you ain't gonna have to sit there and say, I'm celibate for this reason, or I'm celibate for that reason, because you ain't gonna have to say it. It will show itself. I don't have to tell it, it shows itself. I've been having multiple fucking orgasms while I'm at the gym for the last 3.5 fucking months. Because I'm taking that feeling to the highest aptitude of thought. I'm allowing it to cycle through. I'm using it to the highest aptitude of thought. There's no shame in me having it. There's no shame, no insecurity. I'm in that dark feminine energy of myself, that dark feminine essence. Ain't nothing wrong with me having the fucking feeling. You just mad because you can't have the feeling. That's basically what you're going to be writing it off as. There's something in you that's stopping you from having the feeling. There's something in you that's stopping you from maybe, nah. I can't see myself kissing a guy. I make love to myself every fucking morning. I love me. I love every aptitude of every greatness, of the greatness and the gratitude in every aspect of myself. Outside of the physical. It's a feeling outside of true physical presence. That to the aptitude of how I love myself. That's what that love of yourself is. That's going to give you your spiritual stamina. Your spiritual stamina, that is your boundary for your emotional investment. Those without spiritual stamina do not understand the aptitudes of emotional investment. Those who lack spiritual stamina, lack spiritual endurance, they lack the ability to set the boundaries for emotional investment. And you'll notice that within yourself. How many times have you went into a space to where it was a test of your emotional stamina? I mean, your spiritual stamina, your emotional compliance, your emotional understanding and clarity within yourself. Did you feel doubt when you went over there? Did you feel shame when you went over there? You felt judged when you went over there? You better learn how to feed off that shit. Every position that you're going into, you're going to have to learn to feed off of anyway while you're down here. Because that's the write-off mentality. The write-off mentality, when I talk about ownership mentality, That the write-off, that's feeding from everything. That's feeding from it. The aptitude of you understanding that while I'm here, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, but how can I feed from it if I'm in that space? For most people, well, this is where you have the lower vibrational aspects. I'm trying to use, for lack of a better word, that lower vibrational aspect where you have people like you have the readers that will always give you information and they feed off of your energy in that space because it's all based on a lack of application. If they fully apply to what they're telling you, then they wouldn't be there. There would be no purpose for them. If you were not feeling shame, doubt, insecurity, you weren't feeling that shit, they wouldn't be there. This is you learning yourself. Do not allow yourself to become subsequently stuck within a space of like, oh, I guess that's what I'm supposed to be doing based on an identity that you're still trying to serve. Because now you want to walk around and you want to be the great mother, or you want to walk around and be the great father of all. And now you want to create an entire philosophy based on that, but now you're stuck within that space. Because now you got to deal with everything and advocate everything that goes against you being a great father, you being a great mother. You got to usher past that point. This is that point of no return. In order for me to understand and to become that, I got to become the example. 1 second. The highest aptitude of you honoring your thoughts, and bringing yourself into that space is allowing yourself to have that feeling, but not keeping yourself down. Like, oh my God, I felt that way. Oh my God, I had it. Oh my God, this happened to me, and I can't talk to nobody about it. Why can't you have that conversation with yourself? Ultimately, why can't you have that conversation with yourself? What shame? What shame is it bringing up? What guilt is it bringing up? What insecurity? What pain? What trauma is it bringing up? Are you in that position where you're afraid? You feel that because remember, in honoring those thoughts, that lower aspect of that urge, if you're not taking it to the highest realm of yourself, you're going to be stuck trying to subsequent it into the space where you're at. So you're going to create the environment for that to exist. Daddy complex, damn, that's mom right there, and all these complexes that you put into yourself. All of these are the subsequent aspects of thought that you created based on an urge to subsequent to an urge. Similar to you building relationships with no emotional structure, no spiritual stamina. So you built an entire relationship because your relationship with yourself has no spiritual stamina. You have no emotional clarity with understanding you. So now every space that you go into is an experience or an observation of to go get that same energy using the trauma. Oh, because this happened to me when I was, all right, that's nice. How many niggas are you going to dictate that same story to? How many niggas you going to keep giving that same program to? How many brothers you going to keep giving that? How many sisters you going to keep giving that same program to? How many times are you going to replicate this program and just keep dispersing it to people, to everything around you, so you can exist within your space? How long are you going to do that? How long are you going to, ooh, they're blaming feminism, and ooh, they're blaming polygamy, and ooh, they're blaming this, and you just you walking around picking all this strange ass fucking fruit and putting that shit on your plate, and then you wondering why you keep getting what you getting, because you keep attaching yourself to shit that ain't you. Necessarily, it is you. You're attaching yourself to aspects of you that you should be learning, and instead you're trying to ingest. You're trying to just swallow it up. You're just trying to take that shit in. That's that Chronos swallowing all the express. That's Chronos swallowing all the fucking kids. Swallowing the expressions, swallowing your emotions. All you're doing is swallowing your fucking emotions. Just, I don't want to be angry no more, but I'm going to eat anger. You need to keep feeding off of anger now, because you have displaced yourself into that space. That's the category that you're in. The mad black woman, the mad black man. Motherfuckers are talking about right now, talking about. I'm talking about it. Motherfuckers right now are talking about DMX and all this DMX shit. And I'm like, all right, that's nice. DMX told y'all he was a dog a long ass time ago. To the motherfuckers that keyed into it, like, this nigga been a dog the entire fucking time. Maybe, just maybe, the reason that I'm so attracted to this is because it's something deeper to it within me that I need to displace. No. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna display. I'm gonna anchor my thought. I'm not gonna honor my thought. I'm gonna anchor my thought to the lower aspect and then say it that way. And if everybody agrees with that, then I'm right. If everybody agrees with it, then yeah, I'm going to keep using it. I'm going to keep using that same mix over and over and over again. I'm going to keep using that same mix till my hair turn gray and I ain't got no more locks, and I can just sit back and say, yeah, because you know, back when Public Enemy was back in the day, you missed the point. You missed the entire point. You still got an issue that you still haven't dealt with. That's why they sound senile, repeating the same exact stories. These motherfuckers are senile. As you start to heighten your awareness, as you're awakening, you become younger. This is you becoming, returning back to your true self, becoming whole. This is the same aspect. Your soul keeps renewing itself. Your soul renews itself with everything that's already been there present at every point in time. So every time I'm in a state of renewal, but you ain't dealt with that trauma yet, that shadow is still on your soul. Still marked on your soul. Every time I feel renewed, and I didn't cut ties with my baby father. I didn't cut ties with that bitch. She was crazy. I didn't cut ties with this, and this. I didn't cut ties with them because that's why I don't fuck with that sign now. And I don't fuck with this right here, or that, whatever it may be. That's the shadow. That is the shadow. That was their purpose. You said it over and over and over again. I don't fuck with this sign. What sign was that? What sign was it? What was the sign? Pisces, Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, Gemini, Taurus. What sign was it? Now go look in your chart and see where that's at inside of your chart. See what discloses in that side of the aspect of your chart. Go look at it. But if I go look at it, it means I gotta accept some shit. Yeah, you gotta accept some shit. That's you. They're there to give you a point that's within inside of yourself. They're there to categorize and bring you outside of yourself. So you can now look at yourself. That's what you look like. That's you. That's what you look like. Man, but I ain't nothing like. That's you. That same no love, bullshit, the same false aptitude of false pride of love that you do not have for yourself is the same aptitude of love that you see in your mom and the way she acts, the way your best friend acts, your cousin acts, your sister acts, is the same aptitude that is within inside of yourself. Something that you have not dealt with. That's why you cling to it. That's why you cling to it. You call it by a name. You give it, you idolize it. You idolize that aspect. And then even when you get away from it, you still avoiding it because now you're looking at the aspect like, I still need it for something. Because that's what you're saying to yourself. If it wasn't because of my sister, wasn't because of my mother, I wouldn't be this. If it wasn't because of, if I was not my mother experiencing that space, then I wouldn't be me now. That's the depth of your shadow work. How many times can you sit there with yourself in your space by yourself and really do some work? Fuck everything else you're trying to do on the external aspect to avoid it. I'm talking about real work. When you come to me for services, we're getting into real work. I'm not here to teach you that shit. That's going to come naturally to you anyway. That's naturally going to come to that. We can get to that point. But the first thing you got to deal with is those traumas. The first thing you got to deal with is those shadows. That's the ownership. That's the framework. Until you deal with this framework, you always going to be stuck in that position to where every time that you look back, there's going to be something there. There's something that still exists. You have not wiped yourself from existence. This is the aspect when you quantify your thought and you start realizing that, wait, people around me see me, they've talked to me, they used to do this and they used to do that. Why can't I see them anymore in my own mind? There's people that I can't see I cannot see them anymore. Like I can't see them. And when I do see them, I see I see the spectrum of time amplified through stress, the trauma, everything that was in that space. I can see it. I see it outside. I can see the true essence. This is when you're seeing the true essence within a person. I see the true essence of a person. And I'm able to dictate, not based on judgment, but through discernment, and able to navigate around said person until I've dealt with every aspect within that space that no longer needs to exist. I wipe myself clean from that memory. I wipe myself clean from that space. Everything that needed to be dealt with in that space has been dealt with, basically. That means the way that I used to feel an insecure emotion with my mother, insecurity, the acceptance issues, my abandonment issues, the neglect issues, the lies, all of this shit, all of that got dealt with. So that existence for me, the existence within myself, I don't exist in that space anymore. I don't exist there anymore as that person. So now when I go to that space, it's like they got to get to know me all over again. Damn, you brand new. Because they're going to say it regardless. They're going to say you brand new regardless. You got to embrace, yeah, I am brand new. Yeah, I have changed. Yes, I have evolved. Yes, I am growing. Yes, I am. Yes. If you still go to those spaces and you feel insecure, you got an insecurity, you got those aspects, those things you got to deal with. These things you got to deal with. That's the work. That's you coming on this boat. That's you taking that ride. Because until then, you still got to take ownership of that manifest, that log, that index that you got inside of your life. You still got to deal with that. That's there for you to still deal with. That's the shit that you still got to go through. That subsequent and needed feeling to stand up against something. It's only acknowledging you feeling that you need to, I need to say this to them, and I need to do this to them, and I need to say this, and I need to. You're still only acknowledging that you have a limitation. You need a limitation. You need a limiter. You still have not discovered, or you still do not trust yourself to the fullest capability to yourself. When I finally understood what it meant to truly trust myself, I understood that did not just mean in certain spaces. That meant in every space. That means being able to see myself in every single space and trusting myself there. Trusting that I'm not going to trusting that my authentic self is not going to be augmented inside of that space. And this is outside of the catalyst of my control. Like, I can't control others' perceptions of me, but I had to become comfortable with that. You have to become comfortable with that. That's the level of comfort outside of discomfort. As you become more and more comfortable with yourself, every position that you used to hold, you're going to be uncomfortable there. If you don't feel uncomfortable when you go there, got some work to do. You need to feel that uncomfortable. You need to go through the period of being uncomfortable. You need to go through that period of the uncomfort in that space. That way you can usher through that space, the transgressions through that space, and you ain't sitting there, oh my God, I'm sorry that this happened to me. You're gonna have to go through that. Like me, I'm at a point now for myself where it's like I'm literally in this aptitude with myself where I don't react anymore. I don't react. Like, I literally do not react to anything. I'm not in a state of that needed to, I gotta say this and I gotta say that. I gotta say it for? That's the expression point for yourself. Why do you feel the need to have to say that? It should already, once you've already defined that within inside of yourself, you ain't got to do that anymore. I don't have to express to anybody, and this is the levels of your process. This is why whenever you see somebody saying something, the way that they're going through their process, that's the process that they've chosen. It's not up to you to be like, but you should go do it this way. No. I have a multitude of exercises that are custom to my clients. That means if you come to me, and then your sister come to me, and then your mother come to me, all of y'all gonna have custom work. I'm not gonna give you, here is the Dark Mother special. No, I'm not gonna do that because it's in tune to you. That means we sitting in that space and we building you. I can't give everybody, I'm not gonna sit there and give everybody the same damn, I guess got this whole, yo guys, I got this awesome. That's not me. I'm not here to make you have to come back. I'm here to give you, I'm not gonna be sitting there and be like, oh, I got this right here. Come to this. No. My job, my purpose is to give you what I'm giving you. I've digested this. I went through the process. So that's why I deliver it the way that I deliver it. Because there's somebody in the space, in that same expression, that needs that process. They need that in their life. Now, the aptitude to how they're going to invest into it is on them. This is all about you being authentic to yourself. There can be but there's a million other Niggas that call themselves shamans and healers. Nigga, they not me. Just like for the aptitude for you, it's like there's a million motherfuckers selling waist beads. They're not you. There's a million motherfuckers dropping out. They're not you. That's your brute. They're not you. You're in tuning yourself to you're in tuning your stuff outside of the shame, the guilt, because the reason that they're doing it is to avoid something as a point to why you're doing it. And as that fades, as you deal with it subsequently, because I learned that with myself, as I dealt with certain things don't even come up on the spectrum for me anymore. Like right now, I got like a bunch of, the most I got that come in lives when I'm doing lives on Facebook, or I'm doing a live on IG. I might get them niggas that'll come through and be like, what's that shit? Hey, you can get this $1 million of this $100,000 from Cash App, or hit me up for readings or whatever. All I do is I go back through and I'm like, delete, block, block, block. That's all I can do. I'm not going to sit here in like my next live talk about, yo, let's talk about these niggas that come into motherfuckers pages and them EFI niggas and them. Why? Why am I going to give them any of my energy? You give them that. You set them up to win. You set them up automatically to win just by saying something about them. You give them life. Your breath goes into them. So whatever anger channel that you use goes into them. So your anger, your fear again, that's where it's always going. It's been doing the same. You've been doing that same shit over and over and over again. So as you're coming out of that, you're learning to stop doing that reaction. You're stopping that knee-jerk reaction to respond, because it's always going to be present. As long as you are down here, it's always going to be present. It's always going to be there. How you deal with it in true aspect of yourself, not avoiding it, not shutting it down, because I've had people come into my inbox and say, hey, I appreciate what you do, but don't bring it on my page because I'm trying to do this, and this. Okay, great. Don't invite me to your shit. I didn't invite you to mine. Don't invite me to your party. I did not invite you to mine. This is your thought process. I did not invite you to my party. You came of your own free will. You can leave at your own free will. That's you. The same aspect for me. I'm in turn in respecting and honoring my thought and respecting myself and trusting myself. I'm going to do the same. It's when you get stuck in it. It's when you feel the need to yell at somebody or display a whole paragraph to people. And I've done the shit, whole paragraphs of expressing my feelings and thoughts and ideals to something because I did not understand healthy expression. I did not understand in honoring my thought and taking it to the highest point. If they're doing that and they're talking about that, and I really have a discourse for that, let me bring it to the higher realm. Let me sit with it up here. Let me sit with it up here. Yes, up here. Let me sit up yonder. That's how they say it. Let me sit up here with it and understand it and play with it and allow it to fall through my fingertips and play with it up here. That way I'm not being disturbed. I'm sitting alone with the thoughts. I'm allowing everything to just come up and I'm doing what I need to do. Then, if I find a discourse to display something, I create it based on my own authenticity. I'm not doing it based on that. I'm not doing it based on, because like right now, I can guarantee that in the next 2 weeks, I just had this conversation. In the next 2 weeks, there's going to be 796 say some random ass number. 796 niggas talking about and trying to decode some shit. Riding that wave of energy. Meanwhile, I took my trip around 12 o'clock. I was in my space. I was gone. Became one with my space, and I was rewiring my mind. I had a whole conversation with that energy that everybody's going to sit here and try to decode. There's nothing to decode based on it. There's nothing to decode on a mass level. That mass level shit is over with. How does that affect you? What did it mean to you? What did it help you? What did it help you experience? That's ultimately what you are learning. You're learning to be confident within your expression within every space. You're learning to move without shame, without doubt, without guilt, without insecurity, without those old senses. So you can unlock the higher aspects of yourself. That way you ain't sitting there like, man, but I felt bad for doing this, this, and this. Because that's how your parenting style will be. When you subsequently become a parent, if you are a parent, that's how your whole style will be in every relationship. It will be the undercurrent based on that. You will avoid being judged or being rejected or being shamed for a certain feeling or aptitude, and then you're stuck within a space because you're not confident enough to display yourself in such a liberal fashion. You have not defined that liberated aspect within inside of yourself. You have not defined it and took it to the highest aptitude. You got stuck on, oh my God, WAP. You got stuck on a nigga sitting in a car telling you everything bad about a nigga in that space. You got stuck on that. See, he just showed you a lack of accountability. So now that the shadow is now denser, as we've been getting into throughout this couple months, now that shadow is dense, guess what happens? Oh shit, now you can see it. Now you see yourself. You've always seen yourself, but now you got to deal with yourself. That's why shadow work is the most important part. Every motherfucker wanted to skip over the shadow work part. Nobody wanted to dive into the shadow work part. That's what I noticed for myself. So I was like, wait, why is everybody skipping over this part? Why is nobody displaying the vulnerability in this part? Why is nobody cracking open this part? This part is this is the middle point. The shadow, that dark, that dense dark, the melanin, that's the shadow, that's the chaos. Why is nobody discoursing in the aspects of the shadow? In going into that aspect? Why can nobody seem to simplify this? Wait, instead of me asking this why all the time, why am I not doing it? That's the only reason that you get stuck in certain spaces, because you're not doing it yet. That's going to be your answer to damn near everything that you ever asked. Why haven't we done this yet? Why haven't you done it? Why haven't you put it together? What's stopping you from putting it together? That's not my job, or that's not this, or that's not this. You still stuck within polarities. You're only acknowledging that you need polarity. Why can't you do it? What's stopping you? Because that's on the masculine side, or that's on the feminine side. The fuck does that have to do with? Nigga, gender is you. Gender is the masculine and the feminine aspect within inside of you. Within inside of me. My shit's all the way buttoned up. I'm all the way buttoned up. I owe that to my Gemini rising, my Gemini North Node. I knew that I was two different people for a long ass fucking time. I knew I was a multitude of people. I knew that I was two separate conduits of multiple energies. When I accepted that, that's when I stopped all the twitches and shit that I had. I had crazy amount of fucking twitches. There would be moments of time where like one of my eyes would blink and the other one would, one eye would blink before the other eye. Like my shit would blink in a sequence, or like I would blink too hard one time on one side. Is because I was displaying the different characters of myself. Somebody wanted to come out. One of these aspects or experiences kept trying to come to the surface to be experienced, and I kept cutting that shit down. That's the disorder. That's the disorders. The disorders of your mind. Your mind is out of order. It's time for you to rewire it. But you got to take ownership and eat your shit. The shit you put on that fucking plate. The shit that you put on it. That's what you did. You did it. You did it. It happened. You did it. In some aptitude, you got to go find the aspect within inside of yourself where it happened and deal with it. Not sit there and be like, man, I can deal with everything else but that, because that's what's going to have your ass stuck. I refuse to come back down here off of a fucking technicality of something that I did not release. I refuse to come. I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back here on no fucking technicality. I know I'm not coming back. So since I built that framework of not coming back, everything in discourse or that can take me off of that discourse of coming back here or strain me back here, I have to acknowledge. I have to acknowledge it. It's no longer, so this exposes anxiousness. This always goes back to these same cycles. Your anxiousness, your avoidance, your abandonment, your neglect. All of these aspects are always going to keep repeating themselves in different ways of expression. Where at first it came as a person, the next time it comes as a thing. The next time it comes as a job. Or the next time, and if the longer that you don't deal with it, the more then you just keep creating these then you create an anchor. Now you stuck here. Now you got to go through this experience with this in that space. Oh shit. Now you getting disheartened, like, oh my God, I got to deal with that now. And I got to, no, same process. Same process. You're still doing the same process. It's just now you have an expression to show it through. And now you just have something to express it through. Now you have something to show it through. Now you can't be avoided. You gave yourself a reason not to be avoided. In the same sense, you gave yourself a reason to be avoided. I can avoid my spiritual duties, what I need to do, what I need to be doing, because I'm gonna go do this. That is a reflection of your spiritual duties. If you cannot do it at all times, then it's not for you. One of the biggest aspects, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Stop trying to force yourself to do that shit. Learn why you're trying to force yourself to do it. Because yes, you'll be able to do it. You'll be like, yeah, I did it, and I got this book, or I read this, or I did this, and yes, that means I'm now this. Because all you gave yourself was an identity to jump into. You're using a book as an anchor, not your thought. Everything ultimately is going back to your thoughts. How are you honoring your thoughts? That's the theme for that. It's honoring your thought. How are you honoring your thought into the highest aspects of yourself as opposed to the lower aspects of yourself? For me, in honoring my thought, it's always going to be a challenging process. It's always going to be a mental aptitude that is showing me how to deliver based on my purpose of the framework that I've built. I took a quick stream of everything that I've done in the last year to this point. And I was like, you are the fracture. I had the thought, I was like, nigga, you are the fracture. Everything you've done up to this point is the fracture. You have fractured this space to where it cannot go back. Because in reflection to me, that's what I am. I'm not going back to something. There's nothing for me to go back to. Nothing exists there. So that's the aptitude of how you carry and go forward. Where you feel shame, you got to deal with it. So if you say that same, so it's the simple, like you say, a simple mantra to yourself. I no longer will allow my thoughts to be dishonored by my urges. And you say that to yourself. You hold it in your mind for 17 seconds. You hold it in your mind for another minute. What happened in that minute? The 17 seconds was you implanting it into your brain and shit started to come up. That next minute, what came up? That's the studying aspect. What came up? If I sit in a space with myself, if I go back to a space where I was 8 years ago, and I were to say the same mantra to myself and reverberate that back to myself, just in this example, and I go back to that space in my mind of 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, don't matter what years I go back to, I'm still saying the same exact mantra. The only difference is, as I'm saying this mantra to myself and I'm going back, I'm acknowledging and illuminating everything that was dark that left me locked in, that left me constricted in that space. I'm acknowledging the shadows on my soul. I'm retrieving my soul. I'm doing my soul retrieval. I'm bringing myself back to a whole position. But in order to maintain the whole position, now I have to deal with the discourses or the choices that I made in that space and what it brought forth. So the shame, those guilts, those insecurities, those underlying traumas, all of those events, those are the things that I now need to deal with. That's what that's what I do. That discourse, you ain't got to do that. You got to get out of this mindset because you got stuck in that mindset of don't nobody love us and we got to do everything for ourselves. You got stuck in that mindset. So when it came to your healing, you were like, nah, I'm gonna keep it to myself. Okay. Nobody else is gonna see it until you express it. Nobody else is gonna see your shit until you express it. And you ain't got to express it verbally. It's going to show up on your face. It's going to show up in your eating habits. It's going to show up in how you speak. It's going to show. That's how it shows up. The undercurrent. Fuck what you say. It's the undercurrent. It's the undercurrent aspect. That's why a lot of, when we're looking, as you're looking at right now in real time, there's a lot of motherfuckers that built in that fear aspect. And when you go back and look at their things now, that same narrative is there, but they've changed their narratives. They've changed their narratives. They still shooting out that fear-based shit, but they changed their narrative. Now they want to put up now they're going to give you something about honoring yourself, respecting yourself for these aspects, because they still need you to come into their space, because they have not built the framework outside of that space. You got to step outside of yourself. This is why I always talk about your inside of your comfort zone. You ain't building shit else in there. You ain't building shit else in that shell of yourself. You ain't building shit else inside of that trauma that happened when you was 12. You ain't building shit else in there. You didn't fill that space to the capacity. That's why it's bursting open. That's why every current relationship that you coming into is giving you that, oh my God, I keep meeting the same people. The same shit keep happening. And you wondering, and then in that same space, because think about you didn't build the framework. Now you trying to do more new things. Now I want to do new things, and you're wondering why they're not working. They're not working because you're not in the right space. You haven't acknowledged your space. You ain't built no framework for that. That space wasn't meant for that. You gotta move out of that shit. As you will graduate, as you shift boats, this is going into these boats at these boat aspects, these different boats, these different frequencies, these different vibrations. See the ISIS thesis. These different vibrations, these different faculties. Each one of these things are taking you outside of yourself. You don't exist outside. You don't exist in that shit. You only exist If you go back and look at yourself, if I go back and look at myself from if I go back and look at myself from 10 years ago, I do not know who the fuck that is. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that person is anymore. But I can acknowledge, and this is the key factor that a lot of people get iffy with themselves. It's not about having shame for looking back at your old self. This is where a lot of people that I'm dealing with even now, that's that aptitude of that shame. When you look back at an old version of yourself and you look at them through the lenses of shame. I can look back at myself from 10 years ago, and I know, I understand, I have compassion for why I did those things in that space. I know why. I accept the why I did those things. But that's not me anymore. That's relinquishing the doubt. That's relinquishing that aspect. Relinquishing it so you can allow it to come to the surface. You allow it to come to the highest point. Stop letting it burn up and become an emotion. That's how you create your emotions. That's how your thoughts become your emotions. Your emotions become your actions. And your actions become your environment. Because you are not allowing them to go to the top surface. You're not allowing them to go to the top. You keep getting stuck somewhere down there. In a moment in time where you felt shame for thinking that way, or that feeling, that same shameful feeling about you feeling exuberated about yourself in the shower. Now you feeling like, oh my God, because it's still attached to an old aspect of yourself. Where did you first feel shame? Where did you first feel guilt? Where did you first feel it? That's what you need to get back to. That's what you need to understand. That's what you need to tap into. That way, as you come forward and you heal that wound, as now you are healing this wound because you are now going through that wound and you're like, let me pull that out and that. And you can imagine it like, imagine your mom or your aunt or your big mama, your grandmother, like clearing out your scrape and you scrape your fucking leg. That's what you're doing. That's the process. You're looking at it like, I don't understand why you got so dirty, and I don't understand this. You know why you got dirty. They know why you got dirty. There's something as simple in that thought. I always used to wonder, like, why was that always the same line of thought that was always said? I don't know why you keep doing this, or why you keep doing that, or why I keep doing this, but it built shame. It built doubt. It built insecurity because the underlying current was based on doubt and insecurity. That's why when they said it, it was based in doubt, insecurity. It was coming back through that same narrative, that same continuum that brought you into your space because you brought yourself through that space. So now when you were feeling doubt for you scraping your knee, now you in your adult stage, if you sitting there and you riding a bike through the fucking woods, or you jump off something and you scrape your fucking knee, I guarantee you go back to that first memory when you first scraped your knee. Damn, what's happening right there? The first memory you going back to is the memory of the first time your knee was scraped. The first thing you're going to retract back to in your thought process is, how did my mom used to clean this? Or how did she not used to clean it? How did my pops used to clean this out? How did my pops not used to clean this out? Why wasn't my pops there to clean that shit out? Why wasn't my mom there to clean out this scrape? And the whole entire time you sitting there looking at the scrape, why aren't you doing it? That's the train of thought that you have whenever you get stuck. That scrape you got right here, this wound you got right here. You wait for somebody else to administer the anesthetic to your wound. No. Learn yourself. Learn the dynamics of why you keep doing it. That's why it's still present. That wound, that scar on your soul, that shadow on your soul is there for you to remember. Remember, remember, remember. Remember why, the how. That way you don't go through it again. You're not avoiding anymore. I have no feeling, I have no need for avoidance. So I'm aware and I can build in avoidance. I know what avoidance is. I have no thought process of neglect. Oh my God. I don't have to start with, I don't have to start with the story to connect someone to my neglect. So it allows me to be able to use discernment and understanding in speaking on neglect. Because it's one continuous algorithm that is sectioned off into different expressions for each individual. But since I understand that the neglect is this one algorithm of thought, this one algorithm, how do I honor the thought? It always goes back to how you honor the thought. How I view neglect, I take it to the highest aspects of myself. I allow myself to sit with it. How others view neglect, they put it into a subsequent of an urge. I'm missing something, therefore I need something. I'm missing something, therefore I need something. Same thing with avoidance. I'm eating to avoid thinking. I'm eating to avoid using my hands. I'm smoking to avoid using my hands or focusing on something else. It's avoidance. It's a trigger that we have to display. Honoring your thought. This is honoring your thoughts. That way you're not always stuck in that discourse like, oh my God, why does this keep happening to me? Because you are not honoring your thought. You honored your thought and gave yourself an offering based on that lower level shit. Oh, I'm going to give it to me based on this. Lower level experience, higher levels of observation. Lower levels of experience, higher levels of observation. The higher that you go, the more that you're observing. How many times have you sat with yourself and you were like, you know what I just thought about? Hits blunt, pop shroom, whatever. You know what I just thought about? Damn, that's crazy. I never even thought about that before like that. Because you honoring your thought. In that solitude to yourself. Your family issues. I remember when I really assessed all of my family issues and what they really meant. They were all aspects of my family's issues, or the family issues were the framework of the trauma. Everybody, instead of honoring the trauma, instead of honoring the thought of trauma and taking it to the highest aspect and to deal with it, they dishonored it and kept it within those displacements, those underlining currents. So now me sitting on my boat, as my boat teeters, as my boat sitting here teetering, oh my God, why my boat keep getting water inside of it? Why my boat keep getting water inside of it? Nigga, because you keep letting the shit back into your boat. It's an aspect of you. This is all reflections of you. All mirror points of you. Everything points to your ass. You becoming better. When you let go of all it, when you literally allow it to be let go, the process of letting go, you'll understand this point of you're not coming to this space to let go. You're not coming to this space to let go. You're not coming to this space to do anything. You're coming to this space to do the opposite of all of that shit. Because as you come into one with this space, you become in tune to this space, This is you coming into your higher self. All of the other shit has to be exposed or purified. It's being torn away. This is why a lot of us moving in spaces right now, you still want to do things the old way. I want to do it this way. So I'm going to go find this motherfucker that is going to let me do this. And I'm going to go find a healer. And that's what them motherfuckers are there for. Because that's for them. For the motherfuckers that really want to do what they need to do, they're reaching out and doing what they need to do. That's me understanding in myself. Understanding the process. Understanding the framework that I've built. I built a pretty fucking secure infrastructure for myself in that space. And understanding the elements of that is what's going to help you change. You're like, nigga, I don't even care about people no more. Like, they're going to do what they're going to do what they're going to do regardless. How you react to it or how you respond to it. How are you honoring your thought? I want you to honor your thought. Honoring your thought is going to take you on a further fucking excursion than anything that you've ever thought about. Honoring your thought and taking it to the highest aspect of yourself, and then allowing yourself to allow it to seed, allowing yourself to allow it to bloom, allowing it just to be in this true state of being. As you start doing this, everything else that is going to be in the way is naturally coming to the surface. So now you ain't gonna be sitting there looking into space like, but nah, man, because you still trying to hold on to something that don't exist. They never existed. They only existed in the aptitude of the trauma. Without the trauma, what are they? Without the trauma, without the shame, without the guilt, what are they? They shameless as hell. Okay, cool. But without your shame, what are they? That's what you're looking at for yourself. You're no longer that anymore. Let's come into this ownership aspect with yourself. I want you to own yourself. Your main key is owning yourself. Your main key is owning you. Your ultimate expression, your ultimate example, building from that. The authenticity within inside of yourself. The authenticity inside of myself allows me to deliver every week on schedule Friday night lectures. The authenticity within me allows me to every week disclose and break down something in the God Hour podcast. Every single week, me from a transformative space, it allows me to teach, it allows me to counsel, it allows me to do therapy, it allows me to do what I'm doing. The scariest, like one of the scariest narratives for myself and just growing in that space, becoming vulnerable, was trusting in myself what I was. Mm-hmm. Trusting in myself what I was. Trusting in myself what I was and what I am to display. And then building from that. This is a pivotal point in your growth for yourself in building that. Because you might not necessarily be able to do that in that full aptitude. And you have to acknowledge that inside of yourself. You got to acknowledge that. It's a very hard space to acknowledge. Because as you start acknowledging this, it's going to change the perspectives of everything around you. Because you need those to be negative catalysts. You need those to be negative catalysts in aspect as for your reception. So you can tune into you. Because the more that you're in that space, this is how you used to feed. You're being in that space. You need the motherfuckers around you to be. I need everybody around me hating on me because it makes me feel good about myself. I refuse to sit there. Why? But that's going to be your key. authenticity to yourself. Your vulnerability, your openness. That's the strength. Once I became vulnerable, truly vulnerable, in submission to the vulnerability, I could just be. And that's that process. Because there's going to be points in time in your life. There's going to be points in time in your travels down that road, down the stream, where you're going to be like, no, I don't want to be vulnerable to that. I don't want to be vulnerable to that thought. I don't want to be vulnerable to that. I don't want to. No. Open. I want y'all to open, expand. That's the only way you can birth shit. You can birth some shit through a narrow pathway. It's gonna come out narrow as hell. It's gonna come out slighted. It's gonna think about your thoughts. Remember, all of this, everything is your thought anyway. So if your thoughts are open, then they come out. There's no constriction to your thought. That means nothing can connect to your thought based on constriction. Nothing can make your thoughts feel shameful. No one can make me feel shameful for anything that I think. No one can make me feel doubt or insecurity for what I think. Because I trust the process and I'm in compassion, but like, oh, I can understand. It's not based on avoidance, like, oh, I guess see, them niggas over there, they don't understand this type of shit over here because I don't know. I understand that they're at a level, and the reason that if it triggered me, it's something I need to work on. That's why they came up. It's something that I need to address on my travels. I pulled up that my boat docked there for a reason. I need to address this in my travels. Something in my manifest, something in my log, something on my boat is supposed to be dropped off here. That's what you're doing. You're going to these points to drop shit off, not pick shit up. Remember, your whole thing, the whole game is to leave here empty as hell. The whole game is to leave her empty as fuck. So the ultimate aspect for me in the interpretation of that is to make sure that Carlos has nothing when I leave. Make sure Carlos has nothing. Keep Carlos having nothing. Carlos has everything that he needs to do the things that I need him to do while he's down here. He don't need nothing else. Everything else paid for. Everything else paid for. Everything else is good. Papa Lucifer got all that for him. He good. Carlos ain't got to work, want, or need for nothing. All he can sit down here and do, all I want Carlos to do is sit down here and keep creating shit. Keep creating the physical manifestation of the ideas and the thoughts that come to my fucking mind, that come to us. That's all I want Carlos to do. That's all you want yourself to do down here as a tool. That's all you want them to do. That's all he's needed to do. I will adjust as the parent, as the parent, I will adjust that for him. I adjust that for him. We're good. And as you learn how to do this, you learn every other aspect, and you're like, you know what? It makes sense now. I now understand. I now have that in-depth understanding of like, okay, cool. If I don't feel like doing something, I'm not going to do it. I shouldn't feel bad for not wanting to do it. I don't have to make that external expression to somebody else, but I have the lineup in my own self. Like, the energy told me not to do it. My grandmother told me to sit my ass down and watch cartoons all day. My grandmother told me to sit down. The spirits, know my spirits by name. Most important, know your spirits by name. Know who you're honoring because they're your higher thought. They are you. Know how you're honoring them and know why you're honoring them. Because your grandmother can come through and still have strains of shame or doubt attached to her. That's why she keep coming through to you, telling you go eat some fried chicken. And you want to sit here and be like, I don't eat fried chicken no more. I'm vegan. You don't go put that shit on the fucking altar and sit there with that shit. There's something that you need to understand. This is you getting in tune with your ancestors, your spiritual team. The other day, it was crazy for myself. The other day, I transpired past just my spirit, my team, and my team in executing the rewiring. My team now can go into other teams. And I used to have, like, this is one of the things, like, motherfuckers, I have doubt about that. Like, should your stream of your thoughts and your spirits be fucking with other niggas' spirits and shit? And you've been doing it anyway. You got to remove the shame. My spirits go out and go talk to them, go deal with them. Because that's what I do when I'm talking to people anyway. That's the confidence within myself. Now it takes me away from the space of needing a device to usher this in. I became, Carlos, you got a job. Go paint this picture real quick. Create this space, Carlos. All right, cool. Carlos creates the space. All right, cool. We're coming in here. This is honoring your thought. This is honoring your thought, giving yourself your offerings. Everything that you're doing, you're giving to yourself in the aptitude of understanding yourself. Once you have mastered it in that space, because now my grandmother always used to want fried chicken, KFC. Like 5-6 years ago, my grandmother always wanted KFC. Now my grandmother, in that aspect, my higher self, my higher thought of myself, now my grandmother cannot get enough whenever I make my vegan mushroom, my plant-based fried chicken. Because as I'm accepting my dynamic in aspect of breaking away from attachments, they're doing the same thing. So now they can go further out and expand. That's your conscious. This is the collective consciousness. You can't have this. You can't turn these abilities on and then still have undercurrents of shame, doubt, insecurity, because it's going to show. It's going to show in your work. It's going to show in everything that you do. Yes, it is. It's going to show in everything that you do. Someone come get a reading from me, it's like two little kids in there playing in a room every single time. When I'm sitting there with a client, it's two little kids sitting in a room exploring. That's after when I come back, because I didn't go nowhere. When I'm releasing from that space, that's how I release from the space. The innocence that took me in there is the innocence that's going to allow me to come back out. Now, if I feel shame or doubt or anything, so if I feel somebody's shame or doubt, this is how I can cleanse my space. This is how I cleanse my space. Everything else, there's a practice of that. You're able to do that you're able to do that to yourself. There's certain things for myself now that I can do that I don't need the external aspects. The external aspects come from, maybe the external aspect now, like I'll use an example. Like today, I set up some new, for example, I set up some new moon, the new moon being in Aries sigils, created some new sigils. They're in my mind, they're imprinted in my head. But now I was led to burn some cinnamon in this bitch. Some cinnamon in. I got some dragon's blood in. I got a nice little blend of herbs in this bitch. And I burnt this. My mindset was not on, if I don't burn this, then I'm not going to get what I need to get. My mindset was on, like, I like the way that shit smells. Exploring the thought. Allowing my thought to be explored. Allowing my thought to be expressed in a way that I would used to feel shameful for. That's what your tools are for. It's allowing you to express and illustrate your thought in a way that you thought was shameful. But if you use your tools as an anchor and not your thoughts, then you become the tool. Or yeah, you become the tool. That means you'll have doubt whenever you don't need this anymore. This is your growing. In the lower aptitudes and the aspects with your traumas, when you're not dealing with your trauma aspects, it's the same thing. This same deck of cards at once for me held the same aptitude of avoidance, neglect. This was my way to escape or transmute, to escape my escapism of neglect, avoidance, and acceptance. So when I did readings to myself, I always saw things that were displayed of acceptance, avoidance. I always saw it until I understood, like, why do my cards keep saying this, and accepted that for myself. I damn sure wasn't about to give nobody else no fucking reading, because my energy would just transmute through the cards, because this is the conduit. I ain't learned it yet. I ain't learned that I ain't learned that I am this. I ain't learned that I'm this. I ain't learned that I'm this. I love my little rope. I ain't learned that I'm this. I've not learned that I'm this. I haven't learned that, so I ain't wearing my hat today. I have to learn that these aspects are the enhancements of me. I can sit here, like, as I said earlier, I did this entire lecture. I could do an entire lecture if the feeling fleeted to me, but it fleeted and it went. I could do a whole lecture in my mind use the cards. And it'll be like, oh my God, he's using the cards and said, no. My job is to take you out of that aspect. This is an enhancement, not a completion. This is not a completion. That's why when you get a reading, it's not a completion. It is an enhancement. It is enlightening the path that you need to be, what you need to do. From there, it is your choice. When you start getting dependent on, oh my God, people keep pulling the devil card. When you get stuck in possession, you see how I'm in tune. When you get stuck in possessive thought processes, all your opportunities are fleeting. As we look at the Page of Cups. So I can illustrate through everything, ushering and acknowledging your aspects and cutting things through, nurturing your fucking abundance in your own cup. I can go through that process. But my key is to take you outside of that spectrum. This becomes now your floor. This is how you communicate to the ones that need to be communicated to. This is how you now illustrate. This is how you paint your picture. This is how Carlos paints pictures. This is how Carlos paints pictures. This is how Carlos paints pictures. This is how your inner child is going to paint pictures. Don't get dependent on this, and because now your inner child's stuck using pictures and that motherfucker want to do something else. Stop limiting. This is you limiting yourself. Stop limiting yourself to, and now you got 972 decks. I'm not saying that you don't have to go get 972 decks if that's what your spirit wants. That's what your spirit wants. But the aptitude of, I have different ways of explaining my illustration. So now because that's part of that purpose. Don't use that based on, I have a deck, so now I'm going to give out readings. No, because after you give somebody a reading, what are you going to do next? Well, how are you going to consult them? This is the difference between, this is the levels of that growing aspect. Okay, you gave them a reading, so how are you going to consult them? How are you going to consult them now? Anybody that's gotten a reading from me, it's a mini consultation. You about to leave with shit you didn't even think You're about to leave with things that you've been thinking about for a couple of months, couple of weeks that we didn't brought to the surface. Because I'm not there to fix the surface. We're not here to fix the surface anymore. The surface shit don't matter. That shit's going to naturally, your surface is going to naturally change to what it needs to change to anyway, to fit the space. So what you worried about the surface for? The only thing that I know I'm not changing on the surface of me is taking this beard off. Only thing I know I'm not changing. Everything else can go. I'm not mad about it if it goes. That's how you got to be. You can't get stuck in the aspect or the aptitude of being like, oh my God, you got to keep your hair this way for this long, for this, and this. If tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, the spirit say, yo, go cut your hair. Or if I had the feeling to go cut my hair, I'm going to go cut my damn hair. And I'm going to build the whole entire illustration of why I cut my hair. It was time to cut that energy away. It was time to do this. It was time to do that. I'm going to give myself the exam. I'm going to give myself the reason. Oh my God, you should never do that. You should have did this. Because if I get stuck fleeting on examples, I'll sit there and be like, hey, Facebook, should I cut my hair tomorrow? And I'll listen to everybody's, I can listen to everybody's shit. Because this is what most motherfuckers do. And they'll be up there and be like, oh my God, you should cut. Nah, don't cut them. Never cut your hair. Fuck that got to do with me. If I feel the need to start over, I'm gonna start over. There's nothing wrong with me starting to fuck over. My shit gonna grow back faster. All of the subsequent things that I needed to deal with, I'm now cut away. This is you healing. This is your authenticity. My authenticity is me looking like this. So like, that's why I ain't got to change it. That's why I'm not in a rush to go go do anything. When it's time for me to do it, it's going to be done. That is you coming into the ownership with yourself. You're not stuck in images. You're not stuck in the image like, ooh, maybe I should do this, or maybe I should put on all black, or maybe I should put on all blue, maybe I should put on all white. And then in the back of your mind, you like, if I put on all white, motherfucker gonna think I'm flying out here like a god. If I put on all black, motherfucker gonna think that I'm in that dark shit. If I put on all this color, what the fuck does the color matter? Why? This is the aptitude of you growing inside of yourself. This is the ownership mentality. This is you expressing yourself without shame, without doubt, without guilt, and learning those traumas and those triggers. And we break that shit down so you can crush that shit and you can use that as your fertilizer. That's what it's been there for the entire time. In order to get off that fucking plate, you're going to have to eat your shit. You put it there. Let's deal with it. That's your choice, not mine. I've dealt with my shit. It come up, I deal with it. There's no more shit. There's no more shit at this point in time for me to deal with. But I'm aware that if there is some shit that has to be dealt with, I'm dealing with it. That point in time, right there in that moment. I'm not going to sit there and wait anymore. You say you deserve the best. So why would you put yourself into a waiting position? You say you deserve the fucking best. Why would you keep yourself in a waiting position? You say you deserve quality and all of these things. Why do you keep putting yourself in fleeting positions that are the exact opposite of that? Because you got that avoidance, you got that neglect, you got to deal with them traumas, you got to deal with them triggers. This that boat life. This is ownership. This is ownership mentality. Boat life. Ain't nothing else but to just sit there and chill. Yeah. I am gonna, what was I about to say? Who the fuck is that? So many people do weird shit and it weirds me the fuck out. It just weirds me out sometimes. Yeah. Once you build that framework of authenticity to you, that means you have mastered. The art of your framework is mastering. That's how you build your authenticity, is in mastery. Do not be quick to fleet or put yourself in a position based on anxiousness. That means don't sit there and as soon as you sit there and figure out something about yourself, you want to go tell the entire world. That's anxiousness. Sit with it. As the moment that you feel that you are no longer the moment, because anxiousness is one of the easiest traumas triggers to really deal with. It's one of the it's the abandonment that a lot of people can't deal with. It's the neglect people can't deal with, because that's manifested as something else that they have to deal with. That it's manifested as something else in their life that they've built a greater attachment to. But it's the same process, different ways. The same process. You just got to detail it to each wave. You got to detail it to the authenticity with yourself, going through that process. Water's delicious. But I want you to be the best. I desire you to be the best. I desire you to expand out of yourself. I desire these things because I desire them for myself. I would never disclose or displace or put anything into an aptitude. And you got to be able to say this to yourself. And that's the same way people are saying, you got to find my yacht and you got to find that balance. Some people can't even really say that and really say all those things on that list and acknowledge that they're not those things. Not from the space of avoidance. Remember, none of this is from a space of avoidance. Is accepting it. Can you sit there and say, Because even the slightest of thoughts was honored. Even if you didn't act on it, doesn't matter. So if you looked at let's say, for example, you looked at your boyfriend's girl ass one time, you covered it, you looked at that was your neighbor. The person beside you, you looked at their shit. Can you admit that you did it? Can you admit that you did it? Can you accept why you did it? Can you, like, nigga, she had a fat ass. Accept that shit. You looking at your boy, you looking at your homegirl husband ass in sweatpants, or you looking at him in sweatpants and you having this feeling, then you have this shame that you had the thought. Admit that you had the thought. Say why you had the thought. The nigga had on sweatpants. You saw what I saw. I see why you love him. That's how you win. That's how you win it. I can see some of the characteristics and why you love him or why you with him. I can see why. Because you're only acknowledging an aspect within inside of yourself. You're acknowledging that shame aspect inside of yourself. It's like if you sitting there with your man and y'all both look at a girl ass, the key to point of view in that space is to be able to have transparency. That's what I wanted to get into. The transparency with yourself to be able to be like, damn, she did have a nice ass. Can you sit there with your man in that space? Can you sit there with your girl in that space? If your girl look over at a nigga and the nigga got on sweatpants and she like, and you saw her looking without you dishonoring her, but like, the nigga print was out. Can you say that? That's health. That's knowing that you transpired to a certain point. You don't feel no type of way about it. You don't feel jealousy. You don't feel shame. You don't feel anything about you don't feel it. You don't feel that shit. You can look and be like, oh, okay, you looked at, all right. That nigga legs look good. That nigga like he work out at the gym. Yeah, he work out at the gym with me. I see him at the gym every day. That nigga be stuck on the squat machine. That nigga, I love that nigga's form. Can you say that? This is what you come into. Can you say that? That's transparency. Until you get to that point, that's when you getting stuck on, that's where you get stuck on them same tired ass fucking trips. Because you haven't expanded past a certain point. Transparency, that healing aspect. For you, the next phase will be transparency. After you have learned through shit, you gain transparency. That's your emotional stamina. Your emotional stamina, your spiritual stamina, your emotional clarity is the ability to be able to be transparent. That's you being omnipresent. This is you being omnipotent. I knew the train of thought was going to come back. That's you being transparent inside of your space. Now you ain't sitting there like, oh my God, but they got to do this, and that. No, you're being transparent. Can you sit there and have that full disclosed conversation about orgasms with your chick? Can you sit there and have full disclosed conversations about orgasms with your man? That's ultimately what you're trying to get to, that you can have that aptitude, but don't get stuck in it. That's the key. Don't get stuck in it. Oh my God, I could tell him things that I've never told anybody else. What about the things that you cannot tell him? Oh my God, I can tell her everything. I can tell her things I ain't never told nobody else. Okay, now what about the things that you can't say? It's always going to come to a limitation point because that's what every point discloses. Until you brought that unity within to yourself, you're always going to be in that position. Where the hell the remote go? We're fleeting. Until you put yourself into that position, you're always going to come back to that point. That's the shame. That's the guilt. That's the same. You see how it always goes all the way back? You'll get to a point of transparency, then you'll stop being transparent. You still got something to work with. It's okay. You just got to acknowledge it so you can go through that process. That's what I wanted to. That's what I wanted to end with on that. That's ultimately where you at. Some of y'all are in the space where you are learning transparency. Transparency is the ultimate use of discernment. Transparency is the ultimate use of discernment. It's when you become incoherent or don't want to display it or don't want to do it into that space. That's what you're getting stuck in. So then if you have not honored the thought to yourself, we going back to that honoring your thought. If you're not honoring the thought within yourself, of course, subsequently, guess what you're going to do? That urge is going to be fed into somebody else. That means you're going to be sitting there. You're going to get stuck on the brother that you can say everything to. You're going to get stuck in the sister that say everything. You can say everything to. You're going to get stuck into them. And the longer that you stay stuck down there, subsequently, you need to have more shit to say to them to keep you stuck. So you just keep exploring the same shit over and over and over again in that space because you built that space. Transparency is being able to transpire past that and be like, you know what? And look at everything transparently. So now when you have that same conversation with your sister, with your brother, with your cousin, with your niece, with your whoever, you now have transparency on the table. So when they say something, there's no bias. You're not looking at it through bias. So if they say niggas ain't shit, you be like, your immediate thought is, bitch, you ain't shit. But transparency is going to teach you how to speak that in a healthy manner. Maybe you need to look at yourself. Or maybe you will need to say, bitch, you ain't shit. That's all into the level where you're at. That's your authenticity. Me, the way I am, I know how I am. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know exactly how I'm supposed to display it. And I know exactly how I'm supposed to be saying it and doing it. So I'm going to do it that way. That's authenticity to myself. To all those that need that, they're going to come to me for that. They naturally don't come to this point. I can't make myself, you can't make yourself available to everyone because everybody's not available. Everybody's not willing to invest into your value. You cannot invest or be available to everyone because everybody does not have the emotional stamina to invest into your quality. I want you to be the fucking best. That's how, I wanted to end it that way. I had this lecture 17 times in my head while I was walking around. Most of my lectures, I have like 17 versions of the lecture in my mind at a point in time. I have 17 lectures in my mind at a point in time trying to decide how am I going to disperse that lesson. This was the first time, well, the last 3 lectures, if you go back and look at my beginning works, the beginning of my works till now, you'll see to where my ability to transparency through thought has changed. And that's the mark of your growth. This is why you have to, this is the key aspect of once you start to do your research, once you start to do your growing aspects within yourself, that's what you're doing. You've already laid your framework. Your framework, you should not have to display and be like, at a point in time right now, the only time that I say study all and follow none is that's for the build for new subscribers and anybody that comes through. That's always going to be that point. But for you being in that space with yourself, I no longer have to say study all and follow none to myself to make it something for me to believe. I study all and follow none all automatically. That's me. That's my framework. So everything that I build is based on that framework. You see how you can, now you're using transparency. Now you see how you can do now you're going from now you're in transparency. Now you're in discernment. Now you're in the better aspects of that flow. Now you're just being. So now that this framework has already been put together of your flow of yourself, everything naturally will matriculate to where it needs to go. But that's all in the authenticity of you. Yeah. What was I about to say? And we don't do, I do the closeout. God Hour podcast. Tune in, tap out every Tuesday. New episode drops. This week's episode was Vibes and the Chemical Romance. We got into this week's episode was Vibes and the Chemical Romance. The aspects of immature, improper, or imbalanced behavior. The aspects of our premature growth and the parasitic functions of ourselves in relationships. And that's overall relationships in that whole space. We got into that in the podcast. We got into, all throughout the week. If you have not tuned in to the Rising, Meditate, and Elevate, I don't even know what the hell I'm gonna call that anymore right now. When the 9:45 drops, or you haven't joined me on TikTok for that 1 minute impact. You haven't joined me on Instagram for more content of that nature. Subscribe to the channel, share. If you are in the need and you're like, you know what, it's time for me to go through my healing process. I'm ready. You know that you're ready. Hit me up for that consultation. Let's get that build together. If you know somebody, this is the main key. If you know somebody needs some work, sprinkle it in. Drop the lecture over there. Drop the podcast episode over there. Drop it over there. Do what you need to do. Drop it over there. It'll naturally do what it needs to do. That's your whole process. You ain't got to do nothing. Once you've done, if your work is authentic to yourself, you ain't got to do nothing but sit back and just let it do it. That's one of the things that I had to learn for myself, is I had to sit back and let it happen. Me being a manifesting generator, I know that I'm supposed to initiate, burn shit down, challenge thoughts, challenge shit. That's what I'm supposed to do. So as long as I'm always doing that, there's always going to be the space for me because I am that space, my opportunity in that space. And as long as I'm always doing my truth, everybody else is going to come to me for that truth. I want you to be the fucking best. If you have any questions, I did put in the display in the thing that I'm doing the readings. Donation-based readings. You have any questions, comments? You don't want to get a reading right now? Hit me up in the inbox. Papa Lucifer, Papa_Lucy666. Hit the email. If you want to do any builds or anything to that nature. What else do I want to say? There's something else I want to say. I might or I might not. I might or I might not. And it's okay. I'm okay with that. I might be doing, if I'm led to do it, Sunday service will be back this Sunday. I've been doing a lot of shit. Now it's like, nigga, why don't you just do Sunday service? So Sunday services might be back. If you don't know what Sunday service is, Papa Lucy Sunday service. It's a Facebook Live. I might be extending it to IG. I don't know yet. I might do Papa Lucy Sunday service on IG this week just to see how it might play out a little bit. Just play with it, play over in that room. But Papa Lucy Sunday service might be back this Sunday, might not. Just depending on the works that I'm doing. But ultimately, be the fucking best. I appreciate you for coming through. Allow the message to resonate. Allow the lesson to, allow it to do what it need to do. Allow it in. Allow it to challenge your thought. Allow it to make you want. Allow it to challenge your thought. You don't want to be stagnant forever. Trust me, there's 40, 50-year-olds. There's niggas that right now that are in their 30s that look like they're 50. And there's motherfuckers that are 50 that look like they damn near 162. Right now. They look old. They didn't look old because they're still stuck within old mindsets. They still stuck within old paradigms. They still can't let the pork chop. They can't put the pork chop sandwich down long enough to allow themselves to reset. Don't allow yourself to hold that. Using that same thought process whenever you getting triggered by somebody eating ribs. This is the key. Like when you see somebody getting triggered by eating ribs or eating pork sandwiches or whatever, the shit that you've now sworn away with, what does that acknowledge inside of yourself? That's going to be your key. But yeah, that was it. I want you to be the best. I'm going to drink some more water. I got this itch. Got an itch. And I might honor it a little bit later. What time is it? Yeah, we might honor it a little bit later. I don't know yet. Be the fucking best. Be the fucking best. I love you. You love us. Ashe.